It having reached the hour of 5:30 p.m., I am calling the November 7th, 2023 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Scudetto-Brayton.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Here. Vice
Mayor Ricky.
Here.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
And Mayor Swallow.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can be seated, please. At this time, I would like to take a moment to read a statement in honor of Jenny Conoyer, former Modesto City Council member. It is with heavy hearts and profound sadness that we honor the life of a remarkable individual, Jenny Conoyer, who dedicated her life to serving our beloved city of Modesto. Jenny, born April 27, 1935, passed away on November 1st, 2023, surrounded by her family. Jenny's passion for our community and her unwavering commitment to making Modesto a better place has left an indelible mark on all of us. Jenny's journey in public service was one filled with compassion and a genuine desire to effect positive change. Her tenure on the Modesto City Council was marked by her tireless advocacy for the well-being of her constituents and the city. She approached every issue with an open heart, a listening ear, and a determination to find solutions that would benefit all residents. This was no more evident than in her stout dedication to helping homeless individuals find their way to self-sufficiency. She served on numerous committees related to homelessness before and during her time on the City Council, including spending nearly her entire tenure on the Council on the Citizens Housing and Community Development Committee. Jenny served on so many other civic committees. There are too many to mention because she was passionate about so much, but she was a staple on STANCOG, San Joaquin County Air Pollution Control Board, Tuolumne River Regional Park, and many others. Jenny was also instrumental in the regionalization of the city and county transit system, becoming an inaugural member of the Stanislaus Regional Transit Authority Board. Jenny was not only a dedicated public servant, but also a caring friend, a loving family member, and a cherished member of our community. Her warmth, kindness, and the genuine care she showed for every person she met were qualities that endeared her to everyone who had the privilege of knowing her. As we reflect on Jenny's life, let us remember her unwavering spirit, her passion for justice, and her commitment for the betterment of Modesto. Her legacy lives on through the positive changes she brought to our city and the inspiration she provided to us all. May she rest in peace, and may her family find comfort in knowing that her impact on Modesto will be felt for generations to come. Do we have any comments from City Council members regarding Jenny? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. It is with a great sorrow that we have lost a true champion to this community, who I am privileged to be able to sit in the very seat she governed this city for 9 years. She called myself on the 22nd of October and said, "You need to come by, I want to talk to you." And of course, when Jenny calls and asks for you to speak to her, you do that. So my wife and I did that about 3 o'clock that same day, and she told me that it wasn't going to be long. And of course, if any of you knew Jenny and saw the fire in her eyes, I was looking at her like, "You're going to be here longer than I will be." And lo and behold, 10 days later, she took her last breath, and the cancer in her lungs took over. but her spirit will always be with us. Her tenacity, her willingness to do whatever it took, and her support and love for this community will always be remembered. She is quite the gal. She didn't just start cheerleading in high school, but she cheerleaded to the very last day. She will be missed. There will be a funeral service on November the 17th at Lady of Fatima at 11 o'clock. That is at 11 o'clock, November the 17th. And of course, the entire city of Modesto and all who knew her are welcome to be there. And then there will be a reception at the airport, or Modesto Airport. And all of this information will be out for the public here real soon. And I do want you to know that her family is watching and will continue to watch those that didn't get the opportunity for today. But she truly will be missed in this community. And so, Jenny, I will never be able to fill your shoes because they were too small. But I will definitely have the burden, the passion, and the love for this community like you did. God bless you and your family.
Thank you. Councilmember Escudilla-Brayton.
Councilmember Wright, do you wish to go next before me?
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I first met Jenny about 9 years ago, serving on a couple of committees here in Modesto. I know the first committee meeting I met, she was chair. I looked at her, she looked at me, and we both, okay, how are we going to do this? And I, over the years, got to really know her and really respect her. The last year that she was on the council, she was unable to drive to the council meeting, so I had the privilege of picking her up and bringing her to the council meetings and taking her home. And after about 2 or 3 months of that, I really started to enjoy talking to her, and we found out that we were more alike, about 99% of everything that we wanted to do for this city, we agreed on. And it got to the point that I started driving the long ways to the council meetings, picking it up earlier, because I want to spend more and more time with her. The knowledge, just everything about her just really gave me a lot of confidence and insight to her and how much she really loved this city. She was a cheerleader for this city. Every time I would go to any type of chamber event, groundbreaking, open house, she was always there. Even during the time that she was battling cancer, she was there. We would go together. But she always talked of how great this city was and how great our people are. So she will be missed. I will miss picking her up. I will miss going by and seeing her on a regular basis, spending time with her. And I know up to the very last, she had a smile on her face and a love for this city, and she will be missed.
Thank you. Councilmember Escudilla-Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to extend my deepest condolences to Jenny's family. Jenny was larger than life, and we all were blessed by having an opportunity to spend time with her. Jenny was not only my friend, my colleague, but she was my mentor and someone who I admired, respected, and just really looked up to. Jenny will be immensely missed by a lot of people, especially me. But Jenny had a life well lived. She didn't have a perfect life. She didn't have an easy life. But she was a beautiful spirit to the very end. And we were all better people because we knew her. So Jenny, may you rest in peace. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Jenny Knoyer is a tribute to what you can do with sheer will. She won that seat by fighting at each door for every vote and earning that seat with sweat. And that's how she did everything in her life. When she agreed with you, she was a fine ally. And when perhaps she didn't, a worthy foe. We'll never forget Jenny. And I definitely appreciate everything that she gave to the city.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members? All right, I'll just end with my first recollection of Jenny must have been in the late 1980s or early 90s at Doctors Medical Center. She was a nurse, and so was I. And the night shift supervisors always referred to their coworkers by their last name, and I remember it was Ketchum. Always referred to Jenny, and she was just as feisty then as I remember her in these later years. So I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to work closely with her on the city council, and I consider it one of the greatest blessings of my life. Truly appreciate her. So at this time, we will have a moment of silence in remembrance of former council member Jenny Knoyer. Thank you. I'll now ask for the invocation from Bill Knoyer from Redeemer Church. Please stand at this time.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for Jenny, for the love and devotion she so easily gave this city and my father in his later years, and grateful for their relationship and the way in which that was a huge blessing to him. I thank you, Lord, for the legacy she leaves behind here in these chambers and into our city. God, I ask that you would comfort all of her family, to strengthen them and encourage them through this season. And Father, I pray, Lord, for just wisdom and insight for these council members this evening. Lord, insight into our city, into our future. Lord, there's many things to move forward on, and things that don't need to be moved forward on. So those things, Lord, that are of possibly of just not the best for our city, would you let those just lay aside and not be fruitful? Those things that would move our community forward, God, would you make those profitable and successful in our city? God, would you make our city a place that we can grow up and grow old in, that those in our city would be safe? And Father, I pray for your leadership, Lord, over our city council and mayor this evening and in through the future. In Jesus' good name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right. At this time, does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. Item 11 is being postponed to a future meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflicts of interest? And I will turn this over to our city attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. For item 17, that item involves a rezone, and the mayor, Councilmember Williams, and Councilmember Wright have property-related conflicts of interest with the item due to the location of property they own and the project or the rezone. The mayor's business property is located within 500 feet from a rezoned parcel or a proposed rezoned parcel. Councilmember Williams' residential property is located slightly outside 500 feet, but within 1,000 feet from properties that will be rezoned. If the item passes, in an abundance of caution, he will be recusing himself, and Councilmember Wright's business property is one of the impacted properties that would be rezoned if this item were to pass, so he will also be recusing himself.
Thank you. Any other conflicts of interest that we're not aware of? All right. Next on the agenda is item 1, a proclamation declaring November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day. I will read the proclamation. America's veterans have fought to defend our country, its values, and its interests since the first days of our founding. They have defeated tyrants, eliminated terrorists, and secured freedom at home and abroad. Their courage and fortitude in the face of adversity serve as an example for all Americans. On Veterans Day, we pause to pay tribute to all who have proudly worn our nation's uniform. These soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen selflessly place lives, well-being, and security of others before their own. We enjoy the privilege of peace, prosperity, and freedom because of our veterans, and we are forever indebted to them beyond measure. And for their love of country and dedication to duty, America's veterans have endured the adversity, loneliness, fatigue, loss, and made other incredible sacrifices. Many sustained life-altering physical injuries and disabilities. Others bear the burden of emotional scars for the remainder of their lives. Our nation's veterans fully understand liberty's high and precious cost, for they have paid it every day since the formation of our republic. And our veterans represent the best of America, and they deserve the best America can provide them. To recognize and respect the contributions our servicemen and women have paid in defense of America, and to advance the cause of peace, the U.S. Congress in 1954 passed the bill proclaiming November 11th of each year be set aside as a legal public holiday to recognize America's veterans. These heroes served faithfully, humbly, and valiantly in times of war and peace, and they carried these admirable traits into the civilian workforce when their military service was fulfilled. Our precious liberty has survived and thrived because of generations of brave Americans from every background and walk of life who have answered the call to support and defend the United States. The gravity of their contribution is immeasurable, and so is our debt to every single one of our nation's veterans. Now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor of the City of Modesto, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day, and encourage all residents to recognize the fortitude and sacrifice of our veterans through public ceremonies and private thoughts and prayers, dated this 7th day of November, 2023. Accepting the proclamation is Melissa Wanti Asuna, Chair of the Stanislaus County Veterans Advisory Commission. Do you have some remarks? Welcome.
Good evening, council members and mayor. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here. Sorry. I just want to point out 2 reasons why I believe Veterans Day is so important, and the Veterans Day Parade and other things that you have approved in this city. Myself and my colleagues work very hard on suicide prevention. We are working on a plan this next year that we hope to be very successful in that area, and having a day like Veterans Day set aside so that we can pass out flyers and information and just spend time with veterans one-on-one really means a lot. Also, just to let veterans know that there is a day set aside for them, and that even though they may not be coming out of their house even that day, they know that there's a day set aside just for them, so that they know that their life is invaluable. And we plan to let each and every one of them know in our city and in Stanislaus County that their lives are invaluable, and that there is someone there that is going to be there for them no matter what they go through. So again, just thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Are there any remarks from council members at this time? All right, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I would hope that all of Modesto would come out on the 11th, which is this Saturday, from 9:30 till it concludes with a parade that will go down Needham Avenue all the way to Crusader Park. I said 9:30 this coming Saturday. And for those that are viewing and those that are here, if you can pass the word out, we need to show the support to all of our veterans so they can feel as though they are loved even when they come back home. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scudia Brayton had a comment also.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to save my comment until council comments, but it's fitting perhaps now. I just wanted to acknowledge all veterans, and I'm glad that the city has seen it fit to recognize them on this special day. Based on my readings, I do understand that the city of Modesto has approximately 10,000 veteran men and women, and they have served us beautifully, and many of them continue to serve in voluntary capacities and contributing to the city and to our families and our communities. They served then with a passion, and they continue to do so in so many different ways. I also want to recognize and honor those veterans who ultimately paid the ultimate sacrifice and have left behind Gold Star families who continue to keep their loved one present with their love for our country and their community. So for all those reasons, thank you for acknowledging Veterans Day and providing this proclamation today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here this evening, and I will now bring the proclamation down to present it to you. Thanks again.
Thank you. See you Friday or Saturday.
Marine Corps.
My error. Will the city attorney report out on closed session?
Yes, Mayor. The council considered an item related to existing litigation. Today's closed session, no reportable action was taken.
Thank you very much. All right. Next is item 2, presentation of the Helen Putnam Award, 2 of them, for excellence to the City of Modesto in recognition of its exceptional efforts to address homelessness in the community by Stephen Qualls, Cal City's Public Affairs Manager. So presenting, we have Stephen Qualls, California City's Public Affairs Manager. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City staff, and members of the audience. I'm going to throw a disclaimer in here. I didn't know until 4 o'clock this afternoon that I'm going to be doing this presentation. But unfortunately, the league partner who was going to do it is in Sacramento, and she said the valet lost her keys. So she couldn't, there's no way she's going to make it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can wing this. I can handle it. Yes, as the mayor said, I'm here to present not just 1, but 2 Helen Putnam Awards to the City of Modesto. Modesto. And the first one is for the Youth Navigation Center, and the second one is for your chat program. Helen Putman was a mother, school teacher, principal, mayor, and county supervisor. But most of all, Helen Putman was a person who viewed meeting one's potential as a measure of success. Excellence to Helen Putman was shown by someone who did his or her very best. She was as supportive and loving of people who did their best as she was of people who did the best. To the League of California Cities, Helen Putman defined excellence. The Helen Putman Award for Excellence is given in her memory. The purpose of the League of California Cities Helen Putman Award for Excellence is to recognize and promote the outstanding efforts and innovative solutions by city governments. Now, I'm proud to say this is the third year in a row that Modesto has won the Helen Putman Award. And I want to let you know there's many cities in our area who are very jealous of the success that you have. And what this says, it says a lot about your city council and your city staff and the programs that they run, the programs they put together. Because remember, there's 482 cities in the state of California who all are vying for these awards. So with that being said, I'd like to start off with presenting our first award to Miss Jessica Hill. Hi.
Great. I want to give a special shout out to our community development staff and our partnership with Center for Human Services. So as part of this award, the City of Modesto has been able to establish a youth continuum of care to help address and end homelessness. And so the city was able to partner with Center for Human Services for the acquisition of a youth navigation center that actually encompassed low barrier shelter beds for youth and transitional housing. Most recently, we've been able to partner and actually had our grand opening at our permanent supportive housing for youth at 1208 9th Street. And so we're very excited for this partnership. We're very excited for this program we've established in Modesto to help address youth homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're not getting off that easy. Thank you. So we have every year at our annual conference, we do a presentation to the cities who win the Helen Putman Award. So we have a short little video here promoting the great success of your program.
Homelessness and housing instability can have a major impact on a youth's future. The City of Modesto partnered with a local organization to establish the Youth Navigation Center. The center includes low-barrier shelter and transitional housing beds, permanent supportive housing units, and wraparound services. This one-stop shop also provides comprehensive drop-in services to support 13 to 24-year-olds experiencing crisis. The Youth Navigation Center gives young people a pathway to overcome housing concerns.
Thank you for sharing that.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Maxwell.
Well, that's better than some of the ones I've seen that have popped up afterwards. So, and then I'd like to ask Chief Gillespie to come down here, please. So we'd like to present the second Helen Putman Award to the Modesto Police Department for their chat program.
Well, if I can have the Assistant Chief and Captain Adams, and we had two of our chat workers that were able to come on. So come on up. This isn't mine, this is yours. So come on. Come on up. And I think first and foremost, Mayor and Council, I want to thank you guys, because without your support, without the city manager's support, to create these innovative programs like our community health and assistance team, this thing doesn't get off the ground and it goes nowhere. So I appreciate the support that you've shown us to be able to start this innovative program and create this chat team that has our wonderful outreach specialists who are able to help those in need and crisis with mental health and substance abuse and help get them on a path to recovery. Our chat team deals primarily a lot with our homeless population, and they just do a outstanding, fantastic job. We currently have 6. We're expanding to 12, and I know that it's just going to have an amazing impact. So well-deserved to our chat team, so this is for you guys. Congratulations.
And we also have a short video that was presented at the annual conference.
Unhoused residents in Modesto needed increased access to support and services. To fill that need, the police department formed the Community Health and Assistance Team, also known as CHAT. CHAT allows specialists to provide support and resources to unhoused residents without law enforcement involvement. Outreach specialists connect unhoused residents to behavioral health services, housing, transportation, and job assistance. CHAT has helped increase public safety and provided valuable support to vulnerable residents in Modesto.
All right, thank you so much for being here this evening. Do we have any remarks from council members at this time? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's outstanding that the city of Modesto has won these awards 3 years in a row, and then the innovation of the chat team helping our community and those who need the mental assistance versus having an officer who really doesn't deal in that factor or that mindset is a wonderful thing for our community. And I always have said that we are stronger together, so thank you and congratulations.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to echo those sentiments and just say I just really appreciate the city manager and everyone here at City Hall who helped make these programs happen. Homelessness is probably our biggest challenge that we suffer from here in this city, and it's good to see our government coming together with the council and proactively creating solutions. And it's even better when those solutions are something that's recognized by a state-level organization like the League of Cities. It means a lot to our community, and it's a tribute to the leadership of this community. Thanks.
Thank you. Literally for decades in my work in the emergency room, I advocated for support for seriously mentally ill minors who had such great needs as I'd see them come to the emergency room with their struggles. Many were homeless and suffered from addiction and serious mental illness, sometimes 12, 13, 14 years old. So when the Youth Navigation Center opened, I was beyond thrilled that we now have an actual place at Center for Human Services. And if anybody knows Cindy Duenas from Center for Human Services, she is a truly remarkable individual, and I knew that these children would be in good hands with her. And I'm so appreciative to our chat team and all the work that you do daily. I see you all around town. I love when I see the car and the interaction with people that are on the streets and struggling. So thank you all, everyone, for your efforts. Next is item 3, the swearing in of Councilmember Rosa Escudia Brayton as the president of the Central Valley Division of the League of California Cities. So presenting will be Manny Graywall from the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors and Stephen Qualls, Cal City's Public Affairs Manager.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, City Attorney Sanchez. I have the distinct honor and privilege of swearing in Councilmember Rosa Escudia Brayton as the President of the Central Valley region of the League of Cities. And before I do the swearing in, just as someone that's known Councilmember Escudia Brayton for many years, I don't think there could be anybody else better at this time to represent the region for the League of Cities as the president. And the reason is, I think that anything the council member involves herself, she strives to be the best, she's passionate about, she makes sure that she's well represented, but not only herself well represented, but the people that she's representing. And she does this in various other regional committees, the San Joaquin Regional Policy Committee, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Committee, and I know there's many more, but those are committees that have you traveling outside, not only here in the States, outside of the city, but sometimes to Washington, D.C., to advocate for our region. And I know those trips aren't easy. As much as time we give in public service, being on city council or other elected offices, and then going and traveling on behalf of the region, taking away time from your personal lives, from your family, that is a huge undertaking, and Councilmember Escutia Brayton has done that so well, advocating for our region. So without a doubt, I think she will represent us well as the president of this region and the League of Cities of California. So I think we have a good choice here, and it is, again, my honor and privilege to swear her in as our representative for this region. All right, so I will say the things. When I say state your name, that means you say your name, not state your name. All right.
I, Rosa Escutia Brayton,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the mission and goals
that I will support the mission and goals
of the League of California Cities
of the League of California Cities
Central Valley Division,
Central Valley Division,
and the continued betterment of local government
and the continued betterment of local government
and its officials,
and its officials,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the 2023-2024 Central Valley Division of the League of California Cities President, Rosa Escutia Brayton. Congratulations.
You-
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Right. Next is item 14, excuse me, 4. Presentation of a check to the City of Modesto Parks Recreation and Neighborhoods Department from proceeds received by the North Modesto Kiwanis Clubs, the presenting sponsor of the annual Breakfast with Santa event. And I will ask for Lori Smith, no?
She's right there.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and City Manager. It's truly an honor for us to be here tonight. North Modesto Kiwanis members are very devoted to this community and the support of helping children thrive. We're also the ones who put on the North Modesto Kiwanis American Graffiti Car Show, Parade Festival, and Classic Car Parade. We do a Christmas baskets for hundreds of families with art supplies, food, gifts and that kind of thing during the holidays. We also provide hundreds of scholarships for college-bound local high school students. But I'm here tonight because I'm very excited. For the past 12 years, the North Modesto Kiwanis has partnered with the City of Modesto's Park, Recreation, and Neighborhood Department, and I have to say they are totally amazing, to put on the Breakfast with Santa the first Saturday in December. And we've been doing this now for 12 years. And all the money, all of it goes to the City of Modesto Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods Leisure Bucks program, which is after-school support for students and youth activities. I have to tell you that working with the city has truly been amazing. They have been a wonderful partner, and I must say that thank you very much to Lori Smith and Shannon Parker and their team, and that is the reason this program has been so successful. So truly, they have done an amazing job. Shannon has gone above and beyond always and does many things, works very hard to make this program, so we want to thank them both very much. Again, at this time, I just would like to ask Lori Smith to come to the podium. And Lori, I want to again thank you. I know Lori has done many, many projects throughout the city and always done a phenomenal job, but a very sincere thank you to you and your team for Breakfast with Santa. And I'm very excited and very honored to be able to present you with a check, if I may, in the amount of $7,000 for the 2022 Breakfast with Santa. So we're very excited about that. And just one final note, this is just for last year. If we add up the 12 years that we have partnered with the City of Modesto, the North Modesto Kiwanis have donated over or given $90,000 to the Leisure Bucks program for the Parks and Recreation. So thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Jennifer, and big thanks to the Kiwanis who have been outstanding partners with the city and the Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods Department in our Leisure Buck program. And as you said, many youth benefit every year from the scholarships we're able to provide through our Leisure Bucks program. And you're probably noticing at your seat on the dais, there's a few items that are for our upcoming Breakfast with Santa. And I'll ask Shannon to come up real quickly and give you some information about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Yes, you should have received a little postcard that is to save the date for this year's Breakfast with Santa. It will be Saturday, December 2nd, starting at 8 to 11:30. I also left some out for the general public. You also received a kit. This is the sample of this year's craft that the children will be able to take home. So each year we have 2 crafts available to all children, and there's an opportunity to take pictures with Santa, and they can put their picture in here, and it's a keepsake to put on their refrigerator or on the tree. So I'm very excited. This will be our 13th annual event, and I want to say that the North Modesto Kiwanis is a wonderful organization to work with. We could not do this program without them. They are wonderful cooks and wonderful volunteers. So,
Thank you very much. I believe we'd like to get a picture.
We're going to take a quick picture
with
if you
your
don't
group.
mind.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Are there any remarks from Councilmember Williams?
Absolutely. The Kiwanis Group, I've been a part of them for 20-plus years. The person who spoke was the past president in 2022, Jennifer Mullings, who is still standing in her pink suit. And the gentleman who was standing was our lieutenant governor, who oversaw 13 clubs a couple of years ago, Robert Huffman. Thank you for being here. And our current president with the ears on is none other than Anna, who is our current president, and we would hope that you all would come and help support the City of Modesto with the Leisure Bucks, and that is going to still happen on Bowen at the Senior Center, and it's a great thing. If you can't make it and you just want to buy tickets, see one of them, and it should be a great opportunity for raising money for our Parks and Rec department. And thank you, Lori, for everything you do. And of course, she's retired. Well, she moved on now, which is none other than no, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about Ashley, who is no longer with us and who was always there for all the last 12 years. So Kiwanis, and if you want to join the Kiwanis, all you have to do is go to Kiwanis. No. Other than that, thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Next on the agenda is item 5. Consider appointing Jan Viss and Julie Sogstad for a 2-year term with an expiration of December 31st, 2026, and appointing Abelmiel Chavez Hernandez, Colleen Preston, and Roland Sandy Sutton for a 4-year term with an expiration of December 31st, 2028, to serve on the Citizen Salary Setting Commission.
So moved.
Does council have any questions of staff? I will open this up to the public. Any comments from the public on item 5? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Are there any comments from council members? All right, at this time I have a resolution appointing Jan Viss and Julie Sogstad for a 2-year term with an expiration of December 31st, 2026, and appointing Abelmiel Chavez Hernandez, Colleen Preston, and Roland Sandy Sutton for a 4-year term with an expiration of December 31st, 2028, to serve on the Citizens Salary Setting Commission. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I believe I heard it first from Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Second.
Would you, all right, second from Councilmember Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutierrez Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 6, consider approving the appointment of Margaret James to the Equity Commission for a partial 3-year term with an expiration date of August 1st, 2026. Does council have any questions of staff? I don't see any names on my request to speak. I'll open this up to the public for item 6. Any members of the public to come forward? Seeing none, I will close public comments. Are there any council comments at this time? Seeing none, I have a resolution approving the appointment of Margaret James to the Equity Commission for a partial 3-year term with an expiration date of August 1st, 2026. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wright. Second by Vice Mayor Ricky. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutierrez Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye, so the motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is public comments. As noted on the agenda, public comment will be only be in person. Zoom will still be available for viewing and wordly translation. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? And this is for items not on the council agenda, and each person has 3 minutes. I currently, to the best of my ability, see 5 blue cards for people that have not listed an agenda item. So I will go with the assumption that these are for comments not on the agenda. And the first is Patrick.
Hello, my name is Patrick. I have been in Modesto for 10 plus years. I am an outstanding citizen. I pay my taxes. I own a home. I voted for you, Sue. But today, I want to talk about a few things today. First, Mayor, will you do anything about the prostitution problem in Briggsmore Plaza? I go to Tropical Haven there with my 2 young children and have witnessed sexual acts being performed in cars in the parking lot. Next, I was denied employment through an independent background check by the District Attorney's Office with Stanislaus County because of police calls being made against me. I was not arrested ever in the 10 plus years I have lived in Modesto. I can work at a school with children currently, but can't be employed with Stanislaus County. But multiple murderers are okay to be employed there. It is a joke. Paul David Chavez, on July 14, 2022, was murdered by Officer Samuel Muncie in Modesto Police Department. If this was a regular citizen committing this public execution, he or she would have had to answer for their actions. But because this is an officer that we pay to protect and serve, we are left in the dark as a murderer walks amongst us. Be careful, everyone. Murdering Sam Muncie might be behind you in line at the bank, ordering a coffee in front of you at Starbucks, or picking up children from your local elementary school. Paul Chavez was a father of three, a caretaker of his 85-year-old grandmother and younger brother after both of their parents died while they were teenagers. Paul was a great friend to anyone he met. And brother, there was no urgency that day to save Paul's life. Paul's last words were, "It's cool, it's cool, it's cool, chill." Paul was a person like you and me, and now he no longer has his life because of murdering Officer Samuel Muncie. This is not Officer Muncie's first murder either, as a Modesto police officer. Modesto has a problem with not having accountability for their officers regarding murderers. Paul Chavez no longer has a voice, but we as a community will stand up and be his voice for change. Sam Muncie should face charges for the murder of Paul Chavez. His name was Paul Chavez, and I will be his voice, and I won't stop. Now, I ask all of you, do you guys even care? No. Looking down, not worried about anything but the agenda tonight. It's sad. It's sad when I have my kids playing with his boys and see the sadness in their face. I'm done. I'm holding back everything. I want to cuss every single one of you out, but I'm not, because I'm an adult and I try to handle things with respect. Sometimes it gets the best of me, but not tonight. I thank you all. Have a great night.
All right, next is Zafrir Solomon.
Good evening. I hate to be the party pooper, but I guess I have to be. You know, at times that a lot of more and more cities in California finding a way to take care of the homeless on the street. Almost every other day when I open the nightly news, the local news, I see another city, another towns are doing something. In Modesto, the policy is still to push those people off the street, out of sight, out of mind. This is disgusting. You know, and on a day like today, when you guys acknowledge veterans, let me tell you about a veteran that I met on this street a few weeks ago. People from the Philippines sent him an airline ticket, people that he knew because he served there, sent him airline ticket to spend the rest of his life in the Philippines. So over there, he won't have to be on the street. You see, he fought for this country, but the last few years of his life, he need to be in the Philippines. And you guys support ideas that out of mind, out of sight. Now, not all of you, 4 of you. But I talk to you, Mayor. You know, you are the leader of this community. And I tell you, I'm amazed. I believe that some of you probably looking for a higher office for the future. And I tell you what, for those 4 of you, please don't waste our time. If you can't fix city problems, why should I believe you that you can fix, you know, as the office it's a higher office, bigger problems. So it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I see now that you're talking about bridge housing. You know, we don't really care how you call it. Just fix the problem, you know. Bridge out, like my wife. You know, my wife, she's not coming in. She said she's not going to waste her time. I don't blame her. You know, and bridge housing, safe camping, just fix the problem. And you sit in this beautiful building. This is a work of city and county together. You can build yourself a beautiful building to sit in, but you can't fix the homeless problem in this county, in this city. And this is absolutely embarrassed. Absolutely. And it's time that you do something about it. Thank you.
All right, next, Derek Castle. This is about food handouts in parks, apparently.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Canna steering team and the neighbours of Gresada and Enslin Parks. As you're aware, for many years now, food handouts in the downtown city parks has been a major source of problems. It's exacerbated behavioural issues and it's created a huge amount of trash and blight in the parks. I've spoken to many of you about this, and I know you've been just as frustrated as me about this issue. But until now, there has been no real clear, obvious solutions about how we deal with it. Well, I'm here tonight pleased to say that finally, as of last Wednesday, there finally is no need for anyone to be doing food handouts in the city park. No need at all. And that is because we've finally got the day centre up and running. Yay. At the day centre, every unsheltered person is going to be eligible for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So there's no need to be doing it in the park. In fact, if people continue to do handouts in the park, it's likely to cause much more problems and more unhelpfulness to unsheltered people than not. That's because at the day centre there's not only going to be meals, but there's going to be showers, clothes washed, personal life skill training, public health screening, employment assistance and so on, all the things that a homeless person might need to help them get out of that situation. The day centre is where we want to encourage unsheltered folk to go. If groups keep handing it out, then it's just going to continue that those folk are going to be missing out on what they could be receiving at the day centre. Canna has presented a proposal to Parks, Recreation and Neighbourhood addressing this issue. In particular, we've asked that the city set a policy that groups are strongly encouraged to, instead of doing things in the park, to develop a partnership with the day centre and take their food there. However, we recognise that even after being strongly discouraged to do so, some groups will insist on their right to be able to hand out food in the park. And for that, we're encouraging the city to develop a permit system for those groups so that at least can be managed in a way that does the least harm. Our proposal will not cost the city anything, but we believe it'll be for the benefit of unsheltered folk. It will reduce park trash and it will improve the family friendliness of our downtown parks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, Betty Santos.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and the City Council. I'm just up here just to make some positive comments this evening. I'm going to start with Rosa. I appreciate you going out and doing things in the community, which I really appreciate seeing you when you address it towards the end. And Eric over here, I heard that you were at A&W the other night, last weekend. I appreciate it. Also, just you being out in the community, just to show support, what's important to us as well. Chris Rickey, I love what you have on social media. It talks about, you talk about the McHenry Mansion, A&W as well, and then Cesar Chavez Park. I, myself, was born and raised here in Modesto all my life, and I appreciate that, what you're talking about, the future of the families that can enjoy what's going to become a reality as well. Mr. Jeremiah Williams. You know, we've known each other for a long time, and I appreciate what you've also had put out on social media of your events and what you've done in our community. Mr. Wright, you know, you've been here for many, many years, and I appreciate, you know, you coming and here to represent our community as well, and I appreciate everything you do. Mr. Nick Bavaro, I tell you what, I really enjoyed our conversations that we've had before the elections, and I still continue to enjoy what you're doing for our community. I really appreciate the social media that you're putting out there for our sidewalks improvements, road conditions, and that helps me as a, you know, as a community person here to avoid and to take other directions. But again, I also wanted to address that I feel in my heart that you've been hit hard with some of the comments, and you know, there's times where people aren't going to agree with you, but that's okay. But you know, I'm here to show support that I appreciate you as well. So thank you. Okay.
Right, thank you. Next, Sebastian Jones.
Hello, wow. Good. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sebastian Jones. I am here to talk about the safe camping program that the majority of the city voted to reject it. Sad on you. I just wanted to say, shame on you, those who voted on that against the safe camping program. A few weeks ago, thank you to the ones that voted for it. There was only 3. I'd be sitting there watching. I'm glad I'm out of the house. Wife had cancer and we're dealing, but she told me, get on down to the city. They need you. And she was right. Mayor, you could have made a better decision on that vote. You should have showed some leadership to approve one more solution to help the unfortunate in Modesto, but you didn't. Just like you did me. You took, for 9 years I've been down there speaking, and I got 2 minutes. I need to let the public know from UC San Francisco and UC Stanford have wrote the city a letter that Mr. Jones needed a little bit more time to talk. 2 minutes. And you took that away from me in February. That hurted me to my heart. Shame on you on the day that you announced the disability awareness. Did you forget Mr. Jones's disability because of my vocal cords? But you didn't care. Now let me say this. I sit around and I listen to all you guys talking about this, giving awards, and what about the homeless? I don't like to say homeless, the unfortunate. Y'all spending money here, Christmas coming up, y'all gonna be burning electricity. You mean to tell me you couldn't let them people for a short term to sleep in the car? Shame on y'all. What's wrong with y'all? Now, Jeremiah, you said I would do it if I can get an organization. I have a 501c, the Martin Luther King Committee. You'll call me up because ain't nobody want nobody to be sleeping in their parking lot, and that was a safe place for homeless. Shame on y'all. What's wrong with y'all? That's why I'm down here. I'm back. Wife told me to get out of the house. I won't be talking. I'm just gonna be me. See, I gotta get out of here. I don't have 5 minutes no more. I'm gone.
All right. Is there anyone else wishing to come forward to speak under public comment? This is for items not on the agenda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On October 17, a legal notice appeared in Modesto Bee. That notice was submitted to the Bee a number of days before the date of publication. However, that notice gave us to understand that a vote was taken on the 16th. The notice was given to the Bee days before the 16th of October. It was a notice of a vote of the Planning Commission on a subject that is on the agenda tonight. It's on the agenda tonight because the vote of the Planning Commission advanced it to the council. However, that vote occurred, if it occurred, out of sight of the public. It was not taken in a public meeting. It is a violation of the Brown Act to do that. It is a violation of the Brown Act to preload that, to predetermine the vote. It's a rigged vote. And the fact of it speaks for itself. It was published in advance of the meeting that it supposedly occurred at. Because it is a violation of the Brown Act, Mayor, I ask you to call for a motion now to remove item 17 from the agenda. Item 17 is standing on that false vote, that false supposed vote, that sham vote. Remove item 17 from the agenda, please. It's standing on a false vote.
Thank you. Would you like to address this? I will ask our city attorney.
Yes, the item is on the agenda. It's item 17, and I know, I'm sure that that information regarding that will come up during that item.
All right, thank you. I believe that we had someone else, member of the public, that wanted to speak regarding items not on the agenda. And John, maybe I had yours incorrect, but I thought it was for about shelter, but did you want to talk about something else?
It's not about bridge housing.
Okay. All right, great. Go right ahead.
So, good evening, Mayor and council persons. I just wanted to tell you a story about where I was yesterday. I was in the park behind my house, which is on Dry Creek. I was with my 3-year-old grandson, and if any of you've dealt with kids that age, you know, he can throw acorns for like 2 hours into Dry Creek. I mean, just endless. So while we're down there, we have a number of encounters with, you know, homeless people, and, you know, he's sort of asking me, who are these people? And I'm just talking to him, and we're having conversations, and he says to me, he says, where do they go at night? And it's starting to rain. And I said to him, I said, well, they don't have homes. And he is very concerned about that. He doesn't know what to think about that. So we're in this park, which should be a gorgeous park. It's full of human feces. It's full of garbage. And there's these dugouts where a lot of people have formerly had places where they stay. There was nobody there. Some of these people are going into those dugouts so that they can have a place to sleep for last night. And I keep thinking, we need to win the Putnam Award for Tier 1 homeless next year. We can do this. We have the ability to not just push these people out to different places, but to give them a place that they can go at night. A bad night. We're gonna have more bad nights. You know, there's warming huts that we could have. There's places that we can do. You know, I know that there's a number of us who've given ideas out there as to things that can be done to help solve the issue. So I'm encouraging you guys to get the Putnam Award for Tier 1 homeless for next year.
Thank you. Any other public comments? And this is for items not on the agenda.
Mayor, council, I'd like to reiterate what Betty said. Thank you to one and all for supporting and being involved with the car community. Very appreciative of Councilman Williams, Alvarez, and Ricky for showing up to a couple of our organized gatherings. It was a can drive for the underprivileged, toy drive for kids that parents can't afford to buy gifts for. We also like to thank you, Councilman Bavaro, for standing strong for some of us when we're lashed out by others within the public comments, for saying supportive things for what you guys do. We're very grateful that all of you stand with us on this. Also, I was reached out by a couple of the lowrider members in the community, and they forwarded to me the I guess Councilman Ricky had posted about the Cesar Chavez Park, and they think it's a great idea. However, they would like to see some murals put in place in the park or other monumental items in the park that represents the Hispanic community and the indigenous community within Modesto. And so they would like to be considered to have an invitation to have a meeting with the Parks and Recreation to consider their ideas to put in place. I think the ideas that they've discussed with me, I thought was very, it was like an art piece, very ingenerative. I can't even speak hardly right now. But the best way to put it is, it was some really great ideas. And I think it would represent the Hispanic and the indigenous members of Modesto in a very positive light. And so if they're willing to have a sit down with them, I'd be more than willing to forward the information to whoever is willing to make that happen. And so I want to thank you again for working with us. We know that dialogue is always a positive thing. When you have dialogue among your governments, sometimes things don't always go as you would like plan, but in most ways, when you're respectful and you talk in a civil way, things do move forward. A little slower, but not as fast as you would like, but that's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anyone else wanting to speak on public comment? All right, next on the agenda is consent items. Oh, all right.
Mayor, councilman members. Unfortunately, I was out of the country at the time the vote for Safe Ground was the special city council meeting on the 20th. I had assumed that I was naive, that the council would definitely vote for Safe Ground, at least get the 4-3 vote. As we're hearing from other people who've been up here before me now, it's kind of it's sort of a no-brainer. And we just heard John's story about his grandchild. The parks, what's happening with the parks, what's happening with our streets, and Safe Ground was not voted for. So it surprised me, especially the way it was set up to be smaller groups. It wasn't going to be another Moe's, which people were worried about. So it really bothered me. So then out of that meeting, though, I wasn't here, I heard that this bridge housing has come out of it. If we're going to do the bridge housing, it needs to be done immediately. It can't, the money's there, you need to go out and buy the shelters and it happen quickly because the winter's coming. It's not going to get good rain yesterday. So that's why I just want to say that I was surprised that you didn't have Safe Ground, but I think we can do something with bridge housing, and I hope that the council takes it seriously and expediently. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Anyone else for items not on the agenda? All right, next on the agenda is consent items. An item may be removed from consent and discussed at the request of a member of the public or council member. Is there anyone on the council that would like a consent item removed for further discussion? I do not see any names. Is there anyone in the public that would like an item removed from consent for further discussion or comment? Seeing none, will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Item 7, consider approving the minutes from the October 24th, 2023 council meeting. Item 8, consider approving agreements for consultant support with federal and state advocacy services to Townsend Public Affairs from Newport Beach, California, and Vanscoy and Associates from Washington, D.C. for a combined total amount not to exceed $750,000 over 5 years. Item 9, consider approving the acceptance of the fiscal year 2023-2024 CAL FIRE Volunteer Fire Capacity Program Grant Award in the amount of $40,000, which includes a 50% local match for the procurement of wildland firefighting equipment. Item 10, consider approving the First Amendment with Brightview Golf Maintenance Incorporated in partnership with Kemper Sports Management for golf management and maintenance services, increasing the annual payment by $412,148 and for a revised total not to exceed $13,987,536 and extending the term of the agreement to December 31st, 2025. Item 11 is being postponed to a future meeting date. Item 12, consider approving the purchase of restroom buildings for Grisada Park, Mark Twain Park, and Robertson Road Park from Public Restroom Company of Minden, Nevada for a total amount not to exceed $1,078,867. Item 13, consider approving the plans and specs for the Claus Road and Scenic Drive Signal Coordination CML 5059-245 and CML 5059-246 project, accepting the bid and awarding a contract to Tennyson Electric LLC from Livermore, California in the amount of $798,200 and a 10% contingency amount of $79,820 for a total amount not to exceed $878,020. Item 14, consider accepting the plans and specs for the Regional Water Recycling Facility Sutter Campus Parking Lot and Security Upgrade Project and awarding a construction contract to George Reed Incorporated out of Modesto in the amount not to exceed $7,272,462 and approving an engineering support during construction agreement with West Yost Associates from Sacramento, California, in the amount not to exceed $220,767. Item 15, consider approving a sole source agreement with Hack Company out of Loveland, Colorado for nitrate analyzer equipment and field services for a total amount not to exceed $530,000 over 3 years.
May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Wright, second by Vice Mayor Ricky. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutierrez-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is council comments and reports. Do any of the council members have any comments and reports? Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm feeling really good about Modesto right now, especially because we've had some wonderful and innovative new businesses opening up, including the Intermission by the State Theater, where Eric Alvarez and Jeremiah Williams and I helped cut the ribbon today. It's a place where you can go get a great, craft cocktail and wonderful appetizers. And so I'm looking forward to going there quite a bit. The Goat Bar also is recently reopened here at 10th and J. You can enjoy live music there, great cocktails, so I can't wait to see what they're doing next. And I also don't want to underestimate the impact of the new independent bookstore, Bookish, that's going to be located at Roseburg Square. It's going to be a meeting place, a place to learn, and a place to enjoy coffee. And who doesn't like that, right? I'm also feeling really great about what's going on in our Parks Department. They recently released some preliminary designs for the new Chavez Park, and they have some amazing ideas. It features an updated basketball court, an all-new skate park, water park that features water slides and fountains. So I think they're really on the right track. I'm also hopeful that we can work with our local lowrider clubs to add some features that pay tribute to their cultural heritage in Chavez Park. There's a lot of history there and just a lot of really quality time spent by that community at that park. We should celebrate that. I'm also really pleased about how the Parks Department completed upgrades to the tennis courts at Grisada. They look really nice. The new basketball courts at Chrysler and Muncie are beautiful. And the good news is there's more to come. So it's really awesome. They're doing a great job. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about traffic in Modesto. I just really strongly believe we need to continue to add additional traffic officers. Modesto has challenges when it comes to traffic safety. While our crime rates have consistently fallen over the past 25 years, we just can't say that about our traffic safety rates. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue to address our challenges with traffic safety in our next budget. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a full weekend, and I was able to hang out with Councilmember Alvarez and his 68, was it 68? 71, okay, off a few years, sorry. Green metallic with black stripes, and we were at the event, the VIP event. It was a ribbon cutting for their new location. And also, the Golda movie was shown at the State Theater. Of course, we were able to hang out at the intermission lounge afterwards, which is very nice. And I share the sentiments of Vice Mayor Ricky that we were able to do a ribbon cutting with them earlier today. But also wanted to make sure that there was a housing summit that took place at, well, let me back up. For GODA, they had three individuals who were doing question Q&A, and then they had those individuals who were able to answer those questions. And Mayor Zuza Wallen was there and did an outstanding job with that, and we thank her for representing the city of Modesto well. There was a housing summit Saturday morning, and Councilmember Wright was there as well. And we learned about the status of where we are right now. And I was very, very pleased to hear about the middle housing, they called it, the infill. And you may hear more about that as the days progress with our development department. But I also want to say congratulations to Rosa Escudia Braden, our councilwoman. You will do a wonderful and phenomenal job representing City of Modesto. And of course, you will be able to let them know that we are on the map, and we're going to stay on the map, and you're going to make sure we're on the map because you're going to represent us well. There's no question about it. So thank you for stepping up to that plate. I know it's more on your plate and more things that you have to do, but you're doing it out of love, respect, and honor to this community. So thank you. Mayor, that's it. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to report on a couple of great things that are going on in District 4. In Lakewood, La Loma neighborhood, the Utilities Department is in the process of upgrading the pipes for the water pipes and sewer pipes. If you go down El Vista, they're starting on the east side, and then they're going to work on the west side, and I think the project is somewhere around $23 million, if I'm correct on that. Thank you, Mr. Director. Also, on Lakewood Drive between Laramie and Briggsmore, the road's been very bumpy there. It's being repaired. The only people who liked that road were people who did front-end alignments. So now we are getting that repaired, and the people in Lincoln Estates and East Ridge are really very happy. I had some calls about a week ago about cleaning up Briggsmore from Oakdale to Lakewood. And lo and behold, Grover shows up, make me look good. So a lot of great things in our district, a lot of great improvements. We're seeing what a lot of the Measure H money is being used for, and so appreciative for all the voters who passed Measure H, because we're starting to see improvements in our city. Thank you. Oh, I also wanted to congratulate Rosa with your leadership. You're going to do a great job. You're going to represent all of us, and we all have 110% confidence in you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Escutia-Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. My immediate comments are a little bit off. I should have said them earlier, but I oddly felt uncomfortable with that dedicated attention, so I just wanted to get back to my seat as quickly as possible. But I would have been remiss had I not expressed gratitude and thank you to those peers from Central Valley who elected me to the position of president for the League of California Cities Central Valley Division. I'm very much looking forward in partnership and in collaboration with all my fellow electeds at the Central Valley to represent the best interests of all who live in Central Valley. So thank you for that. This past week, I had the honor and privilege of attending 2 cultural events in the city of Modesto. I've heard that the term culture community referenced several times since in my work as council, and indeed these 2 events really epitomized that exact term, culture community. Both communities, the first one was the South Modesto Business United organization that honored exemplary leadership. One of the individuals they honored was a past Modesto council member, Tony Madrigal. Another was Supervisor Condit, and 2 other individuals. And it was lovely to see the community just celebrating the Latino contributions that Latinos give to our, not only Modesto, but just the greater region. And we celebrated it with lively music, beautiful company, and wonderful food. So it was just joy and celebration to be with that group. That as well, that night I attended a Indian culture community celebration, and boy, was it just magnificent. It was just a sea of color. The food was just, you could smell it just blocks away, and I love Indian food, and there was plenty of it. Also, much entertainment with the children, dressed in attire that was depictive of their state in India, and performed dances. And it was lovely just to see all walks of life, all ages, just celebrating again the culture that collectively make a beautiful community in Modesto. And I was so happy to be part of that. Lastly, looking forward to attending and participating in celebrating our veterans at the Veterans Day Parade, along with many of my colleagues here. And this is a group that we should always thank them for the contributions and helping us and allowing us to be in a place that we can freely live our lives to the best of our ability, because this is not a given in other countries. So the fact that our veterans did this for us, I am eternally grateful. That's it. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. This past week, we received the great news, as my colleagues mentioned, that the city officially announced the new plans for Cesar Chavez Park. Park that I grew up at. I grew up boxing at the Maddox Youth Center, and so we also received the great news that the program, the boxing program, will be retained, along with many other great science, technology, engineering, and math, along with arts and sports programming that will be available to our West Side community. And these programs have literally transformed lives in our West Side community and will continue to do so for generations to come. To Jerry's point, I am supportive of the idea of the cruising and lowriding community being paid homage to in some form or another. I'm looking forward to that conversation. I believe that there is a meeting already on schedule, so I'm looking forward to that. I attended a variety of events. I'm just going to name off a few. It was a pretty hefty week last week. I attended the Joint Economic Development Committee meeting held by the Modesto Chamber of Commerce and the County Latino Chamber of Commerce. It was inspiring to see so many prominent business leaders from the area come together to brainstorm and collaborate on how to make Modesto and the county a better place to live, work, and raise a family. I also met with Beam Circular to learn about the great work they are doing to unlock the power of our agricultural community to transform waste into opportunity. Later in the week, I met with last week, I met with the Stanislaus Tobacco Prevention Action Team to discuss creative ways that we can reduce the amount of harmful tobacco products reaching our youth here in the city and the larger region. Over the weekend, that weekend, and it rolled right into the weekend. Over the weekend, I attended the Valley Improvement Project's grand opening here downtown, along with my colleague Jeremiah Williams. And then after that, we ended up taking a cruise, literally cruised over to McHenry for the Pharaoh's Car Club car show. And I finished off the week with my colleague, Councilmember Escutia Brayton, and Jeremiah Williams at the South Modesto Business United's annual awards gala. SMBU makes invaluable contributions to Modesto's economic vitality for the last at least a decade, and it was great to acknowledge the work of so many talented members of our business community, including Nelson Gomez, who's the president of SMBU, Tony Madrigal, the former my predecessor who used to sit here and represent District 2, along with a variety of other folks, and Supervisor Condit was also there. So it was great to convene, and it was great to celebrate the Latino business contributions to the city of Modesto. As we all know, the Crow's Landing Corridor is a robust economic engine that contributes so much to the city's overall economic vitality. So it was great to really celebrate that. And I'm looking forward to next year as well. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Just really quick.
All right, Jeremiah has another comment.
I want to thank Betty, excuse me, and Jerry, but particular because her and I went to high school together. She was always smarter than me, so that's fine. But thank you for coming and speaking, wonderful comments about what we do and how we do it and where we do it. That's always appreciated. So thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Betty.
All right, I just have a couple of comments about some activities that were not mentioned tonight. I was invited to speak at Bristol Hospice, and it was a great opportunity to talk about hope and share some of my experiences with people that are grieving. And I was grateful for that invitation. And then I will make one more comment about the movie Golda that is about Golda Meir, who was a female prime minister of Israel in the 70s, early 70s and later and into the 70s. And she led that country during a time of great turmoil. And this started out as an event talking about female leadership, and that was why I was invited, along with John Rothman from San Francisco, who knew Golda Meir, and Sam Oppenheim, who is an expert in history. So I was indeed humbled to even be considered in that panel. The movie and the woman are truly remarkable. However, the discussion, of course, changed because this event was planned prior to October 7th. So I did the best that I could to address the issues at hand. And it's just one of the many opportunities of being in a position like this and the challenges that I face. But I'm ready to address them all head on. So that was a very serious and challenging evening, but it was also beautiful. And there were over 200 people there. So we have a community in all of these activities that were mentioned, an amazing community. This city has people that truly are invested in our city and care about our fellow human beings. I am so honored and so grateful to serve with everyone on this dais. All right. At this time, does the city manager have any comments and reports? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearings. Item 16. A hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Modesto Municipal Code to adhere to state regulations regarding emergency shelter and low barrier navigation centers, including definition updates and identifying zones where these uses will be allowed by ministerial approval. And we will have a report from Jessica Hill at this time.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Jessica Hill, Director of Community and Economic Development. So the next two items on the agenda is really to address what the state regulations that have come down the last couple of years. And that is to ensure that the City of Modesto is in compliance with our housing element, which is due to the state on December 31st, 2023. So part of the state is they've continued to amend their housing laws to help ensure that zoning helps facilitate additional housing options and options such as emergency shelters, transitional housing, and supportive housing. And so there's two specific bills we'll speak about today, as well as the city adherence to them. So the first one's Assembly Bill 101 regarding low barrier navigation centers, and the second one's Assembly Bill 2339, which is in regards to emergency shelters. So Assembly Bill 2339 requires jurisdictions to require one or more zones which already require residential uses where an emergency shelter or homeless shelter could be allowed by right. And this is as a permitted use without any discretionary permits. And so for reference, the City of Modesto currently allows emergency shelters with the approval of a conditional use permit in the commercial zones, C1, C2, and C3, as well as industrial zones. The state also requires for sites to be located near homeless persons and that a jurisdiction must have sufficient sites zoned appropriately to meet the needs of the shelters in the community. So how they determine that the city has sufficient sites is they base it on our annual point in time count. So our 2023 point in time count identified 711 unsheltered individuals which resided within the City of Modesto. Based on that number, that required the city to have 3.26 acres of undeveloped land to accommodate the unmet need for emergency shelters, and that's 200 square feet per individual. And so staff has determined that there are sufficient undeveloped sites within the C3 zone in order to meet the need for shelters in our community. So staff's proposing to amend certain tables to specify that emergency and homeless shelters will be allowed as a permitted use in the C3 zone, and on the map above in red shows the areas of the C3 zone. Emergency shelters and homeless shelters will be continued to be allowed by a conditional use permit in those commercial zones and industrial zones within the city. What the legislation also does is to ensure jurisdictions have specific definitions defined in our code as well. So some of that includes the emergency shelter, where they have our parking requirements, number of beds, waiting areas, on-site management, proximity, length of stay, lighting, and security. It also had the staff update the definitions for transitional housing and low barrier navigation centers. So in regard to the low barrier navigation centers, state requires that they are allowed by right in mixed use and non-residential zones that permit multifamily housing. And so within the city, that could potentially be a mixed use zone as well as our commercial zone and professional office zones. These are required by the state until January 1st, 2027, where the state has it currently repealed but could be extended. After that date, these low barrier navigation centers will still be allowed by CUP in industrial zones within the city. So just to define what these are, because the state, provides all of these definitions, it's a housing first, low barrier, serviced enriched shelter that really focuses on moving those people from this shelter to permanent housing. So the idea where case managers can connect with these individuals, stabilize them, connect them to benefits, and move them to permanent housing. Other things is they also have to allow the presence of partners, pets, and possessions, and privacy. What it also ensures that if to be allowed by right, it has to offer services to connect people to permanent housing. They have to participate in the coordinated entry system. They have to have the housing first model and work through our homeless management information system. And that's our system that is used countywide to essentially track our homeless services offered to our community. It also establishes the review time for a city to act on these proposals for the low barrier navigation centers, to deem them complete within 30 days, and then act on them within 60. Here is a map above that shows the areas where low barrier navigation centers will be allowed as a permitted use. And that's till January 1st, 2027. What I did add is the areas in purple, in different shades of purple, which shows the areas that would be allowed by a conditional use permit in those other industrial zones. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much for your report. Does council have any questions of staff? Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jessica, for your report. So my understanding is that number one, we need to find the zones, locations, and allow for permitting of any nonprofits or organizations that would want to set up housing. Am I correct?
That is correct. The city has to identify a zone which allows for residential now, that we would allow for additional emergency shelters to be established by a staff level approval instead of going to a commission or to a council for approval.
So the permitting process would be for organizations that deal with homeless housing or bridge housing or whatever, correct?
What our application would do would actually ensure that anyone who applied for it would meet those specific definitions as required by the state. And so that would include the case management services, the housing first model, and then the movement to that permanent housing.
And the city does the city have staff to operate those type of facilities?
No, the state legislation just requires jurisdictions to make sure we have available sites zoned correctly. And so it wouldn't be staff managing these, it's just ensuring that staff could process applications for people to do them in these different areas.
So my understanding, we don't have staff. The city does not have staff to operate these type of locations.
Correct.
Just like we don't have staff to do the Barbarian Center, the Access Center.
Correct.
Kansas House.
Correct.
So, and the new Travelers Motel, that's not city staff, correct?
That is correct.
So what the city does provide locations and some funds for these operations to exist, is that correct?
We partner with nonprofit organizations to either grant them funds, loan them funds, or jointly apply for either federal or state grants for these types of projects.
Okay, so any nonprofit organizations or any organizations that want to do this type of housing, we have open arms for them to come to us and we'll help them in this
Correct.
process. Okay, thank you.
All right, next is Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Jessica, for your presentation. Have we identified that we can talk about some sites yet for this proposal?
So this proposal is just to ensure that the city of Modesto adheres to state regulations. And so
Okay.
this is only encompassing at this point zoning
Okay.
and identifying zones which these types of housing would be allowed just by a staff level approval.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. When would the zoning locations be available? I know that you're saying we have to adhere to it, but how are we going to get the information out to the various nonprofits where there are locations available?
So if the council were to approve this tonight, this is the first reading of the ordinance. We would have to do a second reading of the ordinance, and then, Jose, please correct me if I'm wrong, 30 days after, the ordinance would become effective, that sites in these areas would be allowed for this type of use with the staff level approval.
All right, Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jessica, for that report. Once the city makes available the sites and they're zoned correctly, if that's the will of the council, and locations have been established, can you please reiterate what the process will look like for any community partner, nonprofit, in terms of moving forward that application?
Correct. So this is specifically the zoning requirements to
Correct.
ensure that the city adheres to state law. What staff would do is create an application. We'd have a uniform application where we already have for planning. And what we would do to ensure we collect all of the documentation needed to ensure any project meets the state definitions to be allowed for a staff level approval. And so we'd have a formal planning application that would take place.
And that application would be online?
Correct, it would be.
And once the city reviews and ensures that it meets the requirements, the response would be go forth and?
So as part of, and this is just for land use rights, so as part of this, the state requires us, the city staff, to deem applications complete within 30 days or let them know if we need more information. And then once we have all the information, we would have to approve that use in these areas 60 days from then.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. One question I have, let's go back to the slide that shows the locations that you identified.
So the first component of it is in regards to AB 2339, where we have to identify zones where we can build additional emergency shelters or homeless shelters. And so this outlines the C3 zone, which is proposed.
Okay, are these locations that are in, I guess they're red or pink or whatever?
These are the ones in red, yes.
Okay, are those owned by the city or are they owned by private landowners?
These are not owned by the city, they're owned by private landowners.
So will we have to get an okay from would a nonprofit that wants to set up a site on one of these locations would have to get permission from the landowner, would have to rent it, or if the landowner says, no, I don't want that type of facility on my land, how's that all going to work?
That is correct. So for any application that's submitted to the city to help with entitlements, so this planning portion, or to help with building permits, we need to have approval from the property owner.
So the property owner could refuse not to have these facilities on their land.
Correct. And the state regulations just is requiring cities to make sure there's just enough land that allows that, no matter who the owner is. And so to meet our state regulations, that's what we're doing in this action right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor Ricky, questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Sorry. So the intent here is kind of from the state is to streamline the process a little bit and kind of reduce snags so that this stuff happens a little faster, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And then does this eliminate other possible options in the city, or is this just streamlining certain spots?
So this is just streamlining certain spots, which there'll still be additional options
Thank
available.
you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Yeah, next question is, if a landowner had a piece of land that's not identified on this chart, could they come to the city and say, I would like to put temporary housing or whatever on my site?
That is correct. What this is saying is those that are highlighted would just have a staff level approval. Those that are not would actually just go through a commission or council approval.
Okay, so it would be the same approval as we're doing tonight for these locations. For any new locations down the road, would have to come back to the council for the
That-
same approval.
That is correct. So
But
this is
no-
just saying.
No extra steps, you know what I'm trying to say?
Correct. So, this is just saying that land that the city has zoned, which allows for multifamily residential, has to allow this at a staff level approval. So let's say if there are sites outside of this, those could be brought forward, still applied for, but it wouldn't be a staff level approval. It would just require a commission and council approval.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Quick question. Because this is based on the point in time count, that's an annual census?
Correct.
Will this activity that we're going through today have to be redone annually?
From what we're reading in the state legislation, we do not believe so. And what we ensured with the area that we chose is it has more than the required amount, so it has more than that 3.26 acres. So even if our point in time count were to increase next year, we still believe we would have sufficient land that would be able to accommodate those needs.
I see. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members? Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Jessica, how does it connect with properties outside city limits like county pockets? Is that still going to work for us?
So this is specifically looking at the city of Modesto and what we allow in our zoning code.
Okay.
And so this is again just ensuring that the city of Modesto adheres to the state regulations.
So therefore,
This
nothing in the
wouldn't
county
include
would
anything
not
outside of
include.
the city of Modesto.
Thank you.
It's not our jurisdiction. It's not at the city of Modesto's jurisdiction, excuse me.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members regarding item 16? Seeing none, I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward regarding item 16? Seeing none, I will close public comments. Any council members with further comments? Seeing none?
I do, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Jessica, I want to thank you for bringing this forward to the council, and I think it's really important to realize that we're here to help any nonprofit that wants to help our homeless. And we have done over the last several years, went out, found state and federal grants for the Access Center, the Barbarian Center, the Travelers Motel, the Kansas House, for nonprofits and other organizations, along with the county and other partners that have the means and the expertise and the staff to do what needs to be done to help our homeless. And it's just great to see that we're making available cutting some red tape so that if any nonprofits or even services out there that want to expand to other locations to help our homeless, it's fantastic that we're doing everything we can to cut that red tape. I want to thank you.
Right. So I have a motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending sections 10-2.125, 10-2.133, and 10-2.194, and adding section 10-2.149.1 to Article 1 of Chapter 2, amending sections 10-3.101, Table 3.1 to 1, commercial section of Article 1, Chapter 3, amending sections 10-3.205 and adding section 10-3.208.1 to Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 10, zoning regulations. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve? Or
Motion
second?
by Councilmember Wright and second by Councilmember Williams, Will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scudetto Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Favaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Next will be, I think what I'm going to do is that we'll take a 5-minute break here, but Vice Mayor Ricky will facilitate item 17. Recusals are from me, Mayor Zwallen, Councilmember Wright, and Williams. So I will excuse the three of us from the dais. I suggest that we take a 5-minute break at this time and then resume with Vice Mayor Ricky for item 17.
On now.
Let's get this party started, people. You ready? I don't see Eric. Need what? Yeah, I do.
Okay.
All right, we're going to open the hearing for item 17. Can we have the clerk read the title?
I think, Vice Chair, yes. Hearing to consider ordinance establishing mixed-use pedestrian MUP and mixed-use highway MUH zones and ordinance rezoning parcels in the McHenry, Sisk, Oakdale, and Yosemite commercial corridors to MUP and MUH zones, and an ordinance amending planned developments in the McHenry, Sisk, Oakdale, and Yosemite commercial corridors to allow multifamily residential uses in addition to existing uses.
Staff report.
Great, thank you, Vice Mayor Ricky, City Council. For a little bit of background, I alluded to it in the previous presentation, but Modesto is required to adopt a housing element that assesses housing needs, constraints, and resources to the city. As part of the housing element, the city has to accommodate the regional housing needs allocation RENA of 11,248 units to ensure that we have the availability and fair distribution of housing within the city. So when the city is required to do this, they're required to have enough sites that are planned for this level of housing. We're not obligated to construct any of this housing. So for a little bit of background, the city's housing plan was adopted in 2022, which identified adding housing along commercial corridors to create different housing options within the city. And so this was to create a wider range of housing options, which a mixed-use zone along a commercial corridor allows. This would also allow multifamily residential by a by right use in commercial corridors to encourage the production of multifamily infill housing. So what staff's proposing today is the establishment of two new zones, the mixed-use pedestrian-oriented zone, which would mirror the C2 zone, and then the mixed-use highway-oriented zone, which would mirror the C3 zone. The change in these two new zones would also allow multifamily residential as a by right use. And again, by right is for a staff level approval. All the same developmental standards would be in the R3 zone to allow a density between 22 to 45 dwelling units per acre. The maximum residential height would be limited to 3 stories or 42 feet, whichever's less. And for context, our existing zones allow for 3 stories or 45 feet, whichever is less. And then upper story provisions would be aligned in these areas as well. So in the proposal, staff's actually also proposing the rezone of parcels along McHenry Avenue, south of Brixmore, and along Oakdale, which will be rezoned to the mixed-use pedestrian, or MUP, and then parcels along Sisk, Yosemite Boulevard, and McHenry Avenue north of Brixmore would be rezoned to mixed-use highway. In addition, many of the parcels which are on McHenry, Sisk, Oakdale, and Yosemite are what's called planned developments. And so what staff is recommending is an amendment to these planned developments where all of the existing uses within these planned developments would still be allowed. We would just add multifamily residential development as an option for these uses. They'd all be subject to the same regulations as the R3 zone, and again, the density would be between 22 to 45 dwelling units per acre. And the upcoming slides shows the maps of the properties which are affected or would be affected by this zoning change. So here's McHenry Avenue, both North and South McHenry. Here is Oakdale on the left side of your screen and Yosemite at the right. And then this is Sisk Road, and it shows the outlines of properties to rezone to mixed-use highway, as well as the planned developments would be adding multifamily as an option. So in order to bring this item forward tonight, we did have 2 public Zoom workshops on August 30th and August 31st. where a notice of the workshop was mailed to all the property owners, and the presentation following the workshop was actually posted on our website. What we've also done is had a mailer to all property owners affected by the zoning change and those which are located within 300 feet of any property affected by the zoning change. And those mailers were sent on September 13th and October 6th. Additionally, the Modesto Bee, they were publishes public hearing notices in the Modesto Bee, which were posted on September 12th, October 5th, and October 17th. And then the item was brought forward to Planning Commission on October 16th and was recommended to approval to the City Council. So some of the summary of changes proposed today is establishing those two new zones, which is the mixed-use pedestrian, the mixed-use highway, which is adding, again, multifamily as another use that could be utilized at these zones. It's also rezoning some zones within the city to these new zones. This change would not change any existing property uses now or have them tear down any of the buildings that are currently there, and future commercial development will still be allowed in these areas. It's just that multifamily that could be an additional use in the future. And then staff will provide development plan review, and that's the staff level review of that, which includes specific requirements for privacy concerns for those multifamily residential units that would back up to any single family residential. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff on this? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. The first speaker card we have is for Reamer. You have 3 minutes.
Reimer is the pronunciation.
I'm sorry.
Inasmuch as you apparently have declined to remove this item from the agenda, some comments on it itself. First, to satisfy the state's requirement for the assessment and for an inventory of properties, there is no need. It's already been done. In fact, the rezoning is unnecessary to satisfy the state. That's the first point you should understand. I hope that you understand that it's already been satisfied. The city of Modesto has already reported that to the state. And let me quote from the response, the report that was sent. Supportive and transitional housing is allowed by right in all zones where single-family and multifamily uses are permitted with no additional requirements. And then emphasized in the report are these words: therefore, the city's zoning ordinance is compliant with Government Code Section 65651, which governs all the requirements. The city has the inventory, it's been reported. The city is in compliance, that has been reported. There is no need for rezoning. There is no functional need for rezoning. The attempt to create new zoning should be viewed as a shakedown. This is a schoolyard bully demanding your lunch money. It's an attempt by staff to usurp the people's authority to determine the use of the land. Land use authority is the right of the people. And you, the council, are the stewards of the people's authority over land use. Do not give it away to the state. You've heard the term from staff that this is what would happen if you do pass this proposal, is that you would be subject to giving up all of the authority of the people's use over land. It simply goes to staff. No one else has any authority but staff. You take away all the people's authority if you pass this proposition. Do not give up the people's authority over the land. It is a fundamental constitutional right of the people to govern the use of the land. Don't give it away. And further,
I need you to finish up, brother.
I understand that, and that's fine for public comment. It's not fine, Vice Mayor, for these situations. I understand you try to limit it, but nowhere in staff's reporting has there been any consideration given to any negative aspects of rezoning. None whatsoever.
You gotta wrap it up, man.
Don't give away this. The negative aspects are significant, and they are particularly significant where you immediately abut R1 and R2 zone properties, where people are looking at what you put in front of them.
Thanks for your comments.
First, do no harm.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other public comments? Come on up.
Once again, Sebastian Jones, Vice Mayor. I don't know, I may be out of order on this one. Well, but first, let me send my blessing to Jenny. We go back about 13 years, boots on the ground. She is who she was, so she'll be missed. Jessica, I got very good respect for you. Where you at? Jessica, hard worker. Jessica, I know I come in late. Do we have anything for South and West Modesto? Maybe I might not be on top of it, but I'm always going to look out for South and West Modesto, especially when it comes down to housing.
Sebastian, you need to address the council.
Oh, well, she's got to answer the answer.
Got to address the council.
Okay, council. I just want to know if there's any plan in here for West Modesto. Like I said, I may be off. Forgive me. Or in South Modesto, any building or zoning where we can have low-income houses. Everybody's always looking at east and north side, and they forget about the south and the west. So, do you have that answer?
Does staff have an answer to that question?
Thanks, Sebastian. So this item today is really just proposing 2 new zones and changing some of our commercial corridors to these new mixed-use zones. What we are doing is we're also going through a Southwest Modesto plan, which is going to identify different housing opportunities and economic development opportunities for that area as well, which will be encompassed to our overall housing element, which will come before the council in December.
Okay, council, time, I still got minutes. I'm gonna use every bit because I get 3. Well, I think a little different. I think that before y'all started on this east and north Modesto, I think that y'all should have been looking at the low income first. I really believe that. But Justice said something's coming down the pipeline. But I really feel that should have been on the agenda. We're about 3 years or 4 years behind the schedule. We need more apartments, 3 stories, to house, because we got a lot of people homeless and they can't afford. They actually are cut off on Orangeburg. That's as far as they can go because their money doesn't meet to live out that way. So they're stuck to South and West Modesto. I'm just using my time. But, Councilman, we all need to get together. I don't think we had a building built on South and West Modesto. We got land over there. And I think that we should be priority. I know we have that golf course, but I hope that they build apartments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sebastian. Are there any other public comments? I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Are there any further council comments on this?
Vice Mayor Ricky, I'd like to respond to some of the public comments.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Some of the legislation that was brought up was in reference to permanent supportive housing and transitional housing. And our municipal code already allows this in all these areas. And so he was correct. What this is doing is allowing now multifamily in specific zones within the city as well. This also does not take away any of the uses that's currently allowed in these areas. It's just adding one additional use of what they could do in these parcels.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further council comments?
Thank you. I believe that the rezoning of commercial space, particularly those identified in the presentation, really is to mixed use is a positive thing. It allows for a greater diversity range for housing types. That affords a community to have more inclusive, for a community to be more inclusive, a community to be more vibrant, and just provide more housing types for a challenging market that we currently have. Therefore, providing more options to a diverse and wider group of those that would reside in there. So I think this agenda item really speaks to providing greater options for low-income housing and providing that option of housing types to our communities. So I, for one, plan on supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So there was a comment earlier on regarding a violation of the Brown Act. As the council knows, the Brown Act is violated when a body actually discusses, or a majority of a body discusses an item or has discussions of an item within their subject matter jurisdiction. Regarding the noticing, I just wanted to clarify that the notice was prepared by staff and no member of the Planning Commission was involved with or aware of the notice before the notice was published. The notice was also published the day after the Planning Commission, so the Planning Commission actually made their decision prior to the notice in the paper. And of course, if for some reason the Planning Commission would have voted against this, the notice would have been changed, and we wouldn't have been obviously holding the hearing today. We would have been holding the hearing at the future meeting in order to make sure that the notice was accurate. But as far as the Brown Act, again, the Brown Act is violated when an actual body talks out of a notice meeting, speaks, at least the majority of them speak about a subject matter item within the subject matter jurisdiction of that body.
Which wasn't the case, correct?
That was not the case.
All right, so we've got 4 motions here. We've got, the public hearing's closed, so we can't do it. Sorry. I'm sorry, man. Anyway, we've got 4 different ordinances that we have to, or motions that we have to approve. So let's have the clerk read the first one.
Motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Other Zones of Title 10 of the Modesto Municipal Code to add Article 6 regarding a mixed-use pedestrian-oriented MU-P zone.
Looking for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion by Councilmember Escutia-Brayton, second by Councilmember Bavaro. Please read the roll.
Councilmember Escutia-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye. Can you read the second motion?
Motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Other Zones of Title 10 of the Modesto Municipal Code to add Article 7 regarding a mixed-use highway-oriented MU-H zone.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Alvarez. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Scudia-Brayton. Can the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye. Can we read the third motion?
An ordinance amending sections 020308, 040309, 050309, 080309. I just want to clarify, I'm reading the full title of the ordinance. 090309, 110308, 120308, 130308, 140308, 140909, 160309, 170309, 180309, 190309, 200309, 210309, 220309, 230309, 260309, 280309, and 290309 of the zoning map of the city of Modesto to rezone properties located along McHenry Avenue, 6th Road, Oakdale Road, and Yosemite Boulevard from various zones to mixed-use pedestrian zone, MUP, and mixed-use highway zone, MUH.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember
Second.
Bavaro, second by Councilmember Alvarez. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye. Motion passes. Can you read the final motion?
Yes, ordinance to amend Plan Development Zones PD 102, PD 109, PD 120, PD 123, PD 125, PD 134, PD 137, PD 147, PD 166, PD 179, PD 200, PD 217, PD 223, PD 287, PD 306, PD 320, PD 394, PD 403, PD 403, PD 421, PD 422, PD 433, PD 436, PD 459, PD 477, PD 481, PD 491, PD 494, PD 499, PD 515, PD 525, PD 531, PD 553, PD 560, PD 566, PD 584, PD 591, and PD 593 to allow multiple family residential development in addition to their existing uses.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Scudia-Brayton,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Alvarez. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Scudia-Brayton?
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye. So the motion passes. I think our work on item 17 is done. So now I'll hand it back to the mayor.
All right, next on the agenda is new business. Item 18, consider authorizing the city manager or his designee to solicit proposals for bridge housing bridge housing sites, and allocating $3 million for potential projects, and approving an agreement for expanded client services with Modesto Gospel Mission for a total amount not to exceed $100,000 for a one-year agreement. And we will have staff report by Jessica.
Thanks, Mayor and City Council. Today, we're bringing forward a bridge housing proposal as well as an additional agreement with the Modesto Gospel Mission. So for a little bit of background, on October 20th, 2023, the city held a homeless workshop to discuss the efforts the city could perform to provide additional services to individuals experiencing homelessness. Sorry, guys. And at the workshop, there were two programs that were mentioned that the city could help fill critical service gaps in our community. One of them being bridge housing, and the next, the Modesto Gospel Mission. So to help define bridge housing, it's also referred to as a non-congregate shelter. It's temporary in nature and designed to help individuals experiencing homelessness transition into permanent housing. Bridge housing also includes supportive services and resources to assist those individuals with the transition out of homelessness. And traditionally, they're temporary manufactured homes, approximately 60 square feet up to 120 square feet for families. So as staff brought forward to the workshop that day, we've done a lot of research regarding best practices for bridge housing. Some of those was to ensure, we reviewed site preparation and program requirements. And so, having, set rules, pre-registrations are foundational for a successful project. What we've also seen in other communities is case management services have demonstrated to assist individuals with their housing goals, get them connected to services and onto that permanent housing. Operational services of site shall be in accordance with an operational plan, and operators will be on site regularly. So this is kind of that property manager component, just to ensure that those rules are held to. And then the last one is to maintain a site with just a limited number of units. Based on some prior research, the city's recommending sites of no more than 30 units. That's to ensure that as we do different sort of proposals that we move forward, we ensure that we work out those initial kinks with it as in a smaller group to see if it could sustain any larger number of units as well. So what the city is looking to do is we will be releasing 4 requests for proposals and requests for qualifications. The first proposal is regarding operators or property managers. And so what the city has struggled with, or what our community has struggled with, is there's not many nonprofit organizations who actually operate these types of sites and have the insurance to operate these types of sites. And so what staff has done through our research is establish different relationships with other operators in other communities, which we're going to be proactively reaching out to help bring them to our community. The next step is service providers. So we're looking for service providers or case managers who can provide case management services, including mental health, medical, housing services, and additional connection to services. Again, this is something our community has struggled with as well, where we have many agencies that do offer case management, but usually for specialized populations. And so our goal with this is through the request for qualifications to bring more organizations who do this successfully into our community. The next one is suppliers or vendors. And so we're looking to complete an RFP to go into on-call contracts with vendors of these temporary tiny manufactured homes. So there's many different vendors that do this, and we want to make sure that we have contracts with these entities of these types of units. And then the last one, and what I'll be focusing most on today, is site options. And so our request for proposal will be looking for different vacant lots, underutilized parcels, or pre-existing buildings, churches or commercial buildings, who would be interested in having these bridge housing sites on those properties. To further expand on this, where the city and the county has been most successful is through the public-private partnership to address homelessness. And that's been essential for the city to create these new programs and different housing options for individuals. So to continue with this partnership, the city is in the process of issuing this RFP, again with the help and identification of additional sites to actually have these bridge housing units. Once the proposals are received, the city will convene a meeting to review and determine the most viable options to move forward for council approval. Some of the review considerations is zoning, safety considerations, site specifications, and then the proximity to services and public transportation. So as part of this commitment, the city would commit to, or staff's proposing the city would commit to funding the infrastructure costs of the new bridge housing sites. These costs would include, but are not limited to, the following: the bridge housing units themselves. Many of the bridge housing units that staff has identified also have accessory units. And so the bathrooms are separate, showers are separate, offices are separate. So this funding would help assist with that as well. A lot of the bridge housing sites require on-site improvements. Some of them being, the leveling of the site themselves, or actually the utility connections to those communal bathrooms and showers. And then following that, the city's committed that we'll continue to work with project proposals to determine appropriate client services and to help explore funding from federal, state, and county sources to help fund those client services. So those operational costs as well as case management services. So what we wanted to do is, based on our research and based on another project we're looking on a city-owned property site is just to kind of explain an overview of what we're seeing cost to be. So modular units, as you know, we've heard from our community and different jurisdictional partners, is modular units are ranging between $17,000 to $20,000. Some of the other things we have to consider, and this will vary per what site, whatever sites are identified, are the site prep and improvements, which staff has seen, you know, one of the properties we're looking at are average about $30,000. The underground work, and that's the connection to, you know, the services, so the water and sewer. Accessory buildings that I touched on, like the communal bathrooms, showers, and offices, and then different soft costs, which includes design, construction management as well. So the next step for this first request for proposals, city staff's proposing to allocate $3 million to help with the purchase of these bridge housing and to assist with those infrastructure improvements that I've touched on in the last slide. If additional sites are viable through this RFP, the council could decide to allocate additional funding, and each of those would be brought forward to council for approval. So once sites are vetted internally, each of those sites would be brought forward to council for formal approval and then that funding allocation. After approval, the city would work alongside the proposers to partner with them for the list of potential operators and service providers. So we're not assuming each person that presents an RFP will have the capacity to be an operator or service provider, but we want to help connect them to who those would be. And then lastly, what I touched on before as well is the city will work with those proposers to determine other outside funding to help with the case management and operation, which includes federal, state, and county funding. Okay, the second part of this action today is really to focus on the Modesto Gospel Mission and their resources to the community for those experiencing homelessness. And so they've been in our community since 1948. Over the last couple of years, they have actually seen a demand for additional shelter options for women and children. And so the Modesto Gospel Mission is willing to open up their chapel to offer a secure site for women and children to sleep without barriers. The site would allow up to 40 individuals to operate 7 days a week, and this program will also include security, meals, showers, and wraparound services to assist with moving them from this area to permanent housing opportunities. As part of the fiscal impact, this is the cost for a year. Again, it includes case management, security, utilities, and a contingency of $100,000. I do want to recognize that if approved, this would be the first agreement that the city had with Modesto Gospel Mission and could actually have additional other partnership opportunities with the Modesto Gospel Mission in the future as well. And with that, that's a lot of information, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, does council have any questions of staff? I see Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions. Modesto Gospel Mission, their model is, their private funding model is based on faith-based, and now they're going to accept public funds from the city of Modesto. How is that going to be integrated?
So this will be a low barrier model for the Modesto Gospel Mission, and so they will not require those standard services that would be required of just being part of their shelter.
Okay. On the RFPs, what is the timeline?
So we're looking to actually issue the RFPs early next week. And right now we're determining how long we should have them open. At this point, we want to make sure we encourage people to apply quickly, but also ensure we give enough time to ensure we have everyone apply with potential sites.
And you mentioned 30 units. I thought it was 40.
So what we've seen of just like launching a bridge housing program is 30 units is a good number to start with per site. And so we're recommending sites of up to 30 units, you know, and then determining if they're successful and based on the demographics of the individuals that we're serving, that they could be an additional ask of the city and to council if that would be expanded more to more than 30.
So during this RFP, we could actually have like 5 or 6 sites
that were identified.
That are identified, so we'd have to come back to council for more money.
Correct.
Okay, so it's just not one. We're going to look at
Correct.
the aggregate. Go ahead.
And I just want to clarify, not each site has to have 30 units on it. It can be 5 units, 10 units,
Right.
or up to 30 units?
It's up to 30.
Correct, so it's based on whatever is being proposed for those
So
individual
if there's a
sites?
church that wants to have it in their parking lot, they have 5 or 6 units. And then if we have maybe the corner of Emerald and Kansas Avenue where the old National Army was, that can hold probably 70 units. Okay, just depends.
So, yeah,
But that's-
our recommendation would be to move forward with a
Good.
smaller amount of 30, and then as it's successful, to then add to it, if that's,
And looking at your model on the bridge housing, it's same model as Dignity Moves, correct?
that is correct.
Who funds the service providers? Is it going to be the county
So,
or city?
great question. What the city is looking to do is, as we receive proposals, there could be times where we receive a proposal for a church who's interested in 5 units and they have the capacity to provide the operation and case management. Or we could end up with someone who doesn't have that experience, where we connect them to service providers who are qualified to do this. And with that, we
Okay.
would look at federal, state, and county sources to help
So
support
it's
that.
not going to be a cookie cutter, it's, not everybody's going to wear a size 9 shoe.
Correct.
You're going to have maybe some with a 7, some with a 12, so you're going to have different variations.
That is correct, yes.
That's good. I have no more questions at this time, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation as usual, Jessica. Thank you. Councilmember Bavaro did ask in terms of the timeline, but more specifically, not the RFP, but once the RFP has been completed and then a vendor identified, what is the time frame for that process up to having a client live in one of the units? What, in concept, what might that time frame look like?
So I think it's hard to say of a one size fits all with that, but I think that, you know, as we get proposals back and we deem sites viable and we take them forward to council for approval, it could be an approval in either, you know, late January, early February, once we get over to council, and then we would have to work with those providers or those sites to actually determine the infrastructure needed to get them on board and started. So it would depend, and I don't really have a firm timeline for that.
Okay, that process that you articulated, how are those steps going to, how will be, I can't even speak. How will we be sharing that step moving forward with the public in terms of what they may look like, what they may be, where they might be, who we're collaborating with?
So as we identify sites themselves?
Correct.
Great. So what we would have to do is, you know, once we review as staff and determine them viable, we'd bring them forward to council for approval. And then we reach out to our other community partners who, and homeless service providers who've been offering services to those who are unsheltered, to let them know of this other opportunity that's a bridge housing site to help those that are unsheltered. So we would do some word of mouth to our homeless service providers. We would do social media. I'm sure we'd reach out to other sorts of media sources as well.
Okay, but will you be doing hearings or public workshops, or how will you be getting the word out of what you're doing, progressing
For
on
the
this?
request for proposals themselves, as the
Post RFPs.
Post RFPs. So as we bring projects forward, we'll be able to tell everyone through a committee session and have a full presentation on the sites and then how the layouts would work and potential timelines. And so each site will be a little different, but it'll be through a committee and then it'll move forward to council with a presentation as well.
I see. Okay, and timeline in regards to the gospel mission, what does that look like as well?
I may have to lean on Jason a little bit for that, but you know, if approved tonight, we would ensure that we got all the requirements for the agreement to take place with Modesto Gospel Mission, and then there's some supplies that they'd have to buy with the cots. But I would think end of December, early January.
Yeah, just to let you know, I have women in my chapel tonight, if that makes sense. I
Jason, would you please,
Yeah, please.
say it in the microphone so anyone listening will be able to hear that response? Thank you.
So basically, I have women in my chapel tonight that we're providing services for tonight. So like, this will just help us bring wraparound services to them because we have no really structure. We're just providing the space in our chapel for those women. There's such an increase and an influx with women and kids that we couldn't just allow them not having a place to go and being on the streets, because both our shelters are at capacity, if that answers your question. So like, the funding is going to help us bring, like I said, the structure and the accountability with the staff member, because I don't have a staff member overseeing that program currently. So it's going to be turnkey as soon as it is already happening now.
I see. Okay, good.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for me. All right, I have a question. You mentioned the committee that will be evaluating the proposals, and then I believe you mentioned a committee with, to the response to Councilmember Scooty
Yes.
Brayton. Who will be on those? Is that
So-
one committee that you
So
were
what we're
referring
looking at
to?
is a cross-departmental committee, just to ensure that as we're looking at sites, I have utilities looking at it, I have public works looking at it, I have engineering, and then I have housing looking at it. So that's kind of what it would look at a staff level. Once all of those items were passed, it would be brought forward formally to a council committee with a recommendation for for the proposal and recommendation, and then they can choose to move that to city council.
All right, so which council committee?
Traditionally, we've gone through our economic development committee.
All right, thank you. That was my question. Thank you. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several questions, as you might know. So when we look at how many of these sites on a piece of property, if a church wanted to start off with one just to see how it, so there's no minimum.
Correct, there's no minimum.
And then, would we open this up to residential areas where if a person had a half an acre and they wanted to put 5 or 10 of these units on their residential land, are we looking at that, or is it just mainly commercial?
So currently, it's allowed with any zone that allows for multifamily housing. I think if we found a residential, a parcel that seems more, we could bring that forward for consideration at a commission or council.
Okay, and then on the shelters, what's the timeline once a shelter is in place and they have a client that goes into that shelter? Is there a timeline where that client is going to be there only for 1 year, 2 years, or is there some limits there so that the whole key is to get them from where they're at now to this shelter, and then from there, hopefully into transitional housing and on to a job and this type of thing. So do we have some timelines there?
So the goal of any sort of shelter is that they stay no longer than 180 days. And so with that is why also the city is focusing a lot of efforts with those permanent housing opportunities. And so we have a place for them to move to once they've stabilized in this bridge housing opportunity.
And then I'm assuming that the church or the nonprofit cannot charge rent to these clients that are staying in the shelter. Am I correct?
Correct. There would not be rent charged.
And will the shelters be owned by the city of Modesto, or once they're in place, or will they be owned by whoever's operating them?
They'd be owned by whoever's operating them, but let me say a caveat. So the city would go into either a grant loan agreement or regulatory agreement to ensure that the units were actually being used for the use intended as well. So where we wouldn't own them, we would make sure that they're still used for what, they received the funding for.
Okay. So now we have several types of homeless people. We have homeless people that are in the shelters. We have homeless people that are on the streets. We have homeless people that are living in cars. So as if I was an operator, or if I had a church and I wanted to put 10 of these units on my church, do I have the right to choose who I want to help. If I wanted to, say, go to the park and find people that are in the park that are sleeping in the park or whatever, if I wanted to help those people into that shelter, I could do that. Or if I wanted to go to the Bavarian Center or Access Center, and I felt, hey, I have street team people that are in the Bavarian Center that really needs to maybe get in their own private place. Those are the people I want to help. Or if there's people living in their cars, I want to help them in this. So do I have the ability to do that?
The proposers would get to propose the population being served. So I'm going to caveat that a bit too. So if they say they're going to serve seniors, you'd have to accept all seniors. But if you want to serve a different population, downtown streets team, you could do that. And so, yes, that would be part of the proposals in the RFP process that the individual property owners and partners would propose for who they're serving.
Great. So what I really like about this, this is going to be a turnkey situation where basically the city's going to come in, put the shelters in, put the bathrooms, put the restrooms, put the showers, put all the everything they need to start, so that the organization really has no upfront cost on having to build a shelter and provide all the necessary things. And then knowing that they're going to have an operator, case management for operating it and everything. Okay, it's great.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions I have right now.
All right, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. And of course, Jessica, great presentation. Never leave the city, please. That's just putting that out there. I am truly thankful that Modesto Gospel Mission has stepped up to the plate to help the city in this particular capacity, even though we know that the donors, or even throughout their tenure, they have always just kind of trust in the Lord, I guess you could say. And we've come to the place where all hands on deck. We need to do whatever we can to bring our city to a place where we have compassion for everyone that wants compassion upon their lives. Particularly 13 years ago, I believe it was, there was a young man who came to the Modesto Gospel Mission, and he was in a dire straits, and before you knew it, he was already a part of the program. He was already working with the Modesto Gospel Mission, and he ascended to great heights in that. To this day, this individual is now the CEO of the Modesto Gospel Mission, and that's none other than Jason Conway. And you have astounded my thinking as to what God can do, as well as what man can do if they set their mind to doing what's right, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. So I congratulate you, and I also hope that there's many more successes in your life. But what I also wanted to say about the Modesto Gospel Mission, I don't know if $100,000 for 40 people is enough. I did some math. If it were $30 a day per person, and if you went $30 a day per person, it'd be $10,800. If you add those other 40, that's $432,000. Just bare minimum. That's $30 per person, and of course that's a lot. I mean, if you have a food consignment of whatnot, it would be $30 for lunch or $20 for lunch if you're in the business world. So I would hope that as time progresses, that there's an opportunity for them to reevaluate the $100,000 and hopefully add to that so they can actually be flush in being able to provide these wonderful services to our community.
All right, any other questions? Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. To be clear, this is separate from Care Court, correct?
Correct.
In your department, you mentioning, some, utilities, all the various different departments. Are you going to have a point person in your department to deal with all the different silos to make sure everybody's on the same page moving forward? And getting things done, meeting the timelines.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. And what's the role of chat going to be in this?
I think chat is great with on the ground, and they know a lot of our homeless individuals. So I believe through their interaction, they'll be able to move many of those people who are on the streets and have not engaged in shelter into these bridge housing opportunities.
So then chat will be free to deal with or to work with the various service providers, should it be one that has elderly or handicapped or people with families.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thank you. Couple questions. Do we have a plan set up for like vetting for bridge housing? Is that something we're going to be doing?
And just to elaborate, vetting based on
Like based on where people are from. Like one of the anxieties I've been hearing is like, oh, people are going to move to Modesto because our bridge housing is going to be so great.
Yeah.
And I don't personally buy into that line of thinking, but it's valid, and I think we should have ideas about it.
So we'll have a template of policies and procedures that staff has reviewed as best practices that people could adhere to. Part of that is, determining, where they first became homeless or where they slept last night to ensure that we're serving those homeless individuals within Modesto.
And speed is obviously an important component of a strategy like this. How do you feel about like speed? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but like ballparky, like how do you think we can do ballparky?
Ballpark
No,
is
longer
hard, I'm
than
sorry.
Tuesday.
So, I mean, it
Next
honestly
Tuesday?
depends on the proposers that come back. So, if we have something that Modesto Gospel Mission has it, already knows clients that need to be served with that, has the social service providers and operators, and Jason, even in this component, can get started tomorrow on it. And there could be one that, may not be close to water or close to sewer that we have to work further on.
Understood,
So,
yeah.
those would take longer. I've seen 6 months for those, but, some could be quicker, some could be shorter. Anytime we're ready to go and ready to move forward a site, they'll be brought forward separately to council. We won't have any of them hold up each other.
Awesome,
Bring them
thank
forward.
you.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. One last question. We do have some county pockets in the city of Modesto that are surrounded by city of Modesto. They do get our sewer and our water and our MID from the city of Modesto. Are those county pockets eligible that if there's a church in those county pockets or somebody has a commercial property with a lot of land that would like to do this, are those county pockets eligible?
So what we would have to do is we'd have to really reach out to our county partners because they determine the land use for those sites as well. And then I'd have to ensure that, legal on the same time and that would be allowable as well. So we'd have just some additional conversations to have.
Have we had those, have we started those conversations with?
We started, so the county is well aware that we're doing these proposals and we're looking for potential sites for them, yes.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Scooty Brayton.
Sorry to belabor this, but it's very important. The RFP process is a very cumbersome process. It's a very familiar process for those who want to be vendorized with municipalities and provide a service to governments. But this is a little bit different, and it's going to engage, as was referenced, churches and other entities that don't have that experience, that knowledge of how to embark on an RFP process. Can you share with us how we are helping those navigate through the process, this RFP process, so that they could be successful?
Great. So the Community Development Division actually issues many RFPs, and one of them for our permanent housing projects. And so staff is already used to really helping an individual or an entity through every step of the way. So we have checklists, we have examples what's needed, and then we help explain to them the process and get them to submittal. And so staff will work very closely with anyone who may have interest in proposing something to ensure we get all of those proposals submitted as well.
Will that unique opportunity be stated in a website or an application?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
One question for me now. What's the plan for initiating the process? For getting the word out?
So I think
I've heard discussions in interfaith groups probably 25 years ago, people that were interested in projects such as these, but at that time, the bandwidth was such that congregations just could not make that process happen. So what is the plan for initiating that process to get the word out to all the many nonprofits in our community and faith groups and landowners and all of the above that could potentially be interested in this type of work?
Absolutely. So I think in addition to all of our normal methods, and so we'd make sure to reach out to the social media outlets, to the Bee, to any other news outlets as well. But we also, the city is a part of the community system of care, which is all of our homeless service providers. We're also a member of the Stanislaus Homeless Alliance, which actually gets the word out through the different cities as well. And we have a closer relationship with City Ministry Network, which would assist with the ministries to getting that word out. And then we would rely on our community partners. And so I know there's a lot of community members who are interested in this type of shelter and housing that we could kind of work with them to help with really increasing our bandwidth to get more proposals in for potential sites.
All right, thank you for that response. Any other questions from council members at this time? All right, seeing none, I will open this up to the public. Are there any members of the public to come forward? Sebastian, I have several cards first. That's all right, that's all right. There'll be opportunity after we get through the blue cards. Blue speaker cards first, and we will begin with Diane.
Well, first I have to say I'm very sad to hear Jenny Canoia passing. I campaigned for her first term on council, and my condolences go out to her family. I applaud you for your homeless efforts regarding the housing, whatever it might be. But I don't see the coordination between all the steps of the coordination, from beginning to end, from street to a real housing. Okay. Sadly, it seems to be for the future. The future for homeless is minute to minute. The facts are, homeless now are living in a severe cold, being soaked, hungry, scared, sick, despairing, disabled, elderly, and still on the streets. Conditions unchanged and waiting for everything. Waiting till houses are built on land maybe not determined yet. Timing is not humane. MOCAG and 3 city members originally planned for safe sleeping ground is an emergency first solution to start with. It offers what they need right now and just needs a minimum of money and people willing to do it. The bridge housing adds more time and really isn't recommended as a first step to fix the basic human needs to live now. It prolongs time as humans suffer. Those with power fixing it, you folks, are relying on the herd, what I call a herd solution, and sidestep the human existing problem now. All of them need help now, not 2 or 3 months. Will the city, county, or both give out, I have 400, but she mentioned 700, are so homeless, worm coats, raincoats, padding for sleep, and guards to make sure they're safe? What about food, medicine? If sick or disabled, you'll know what to do. Which is it? Are you experts? The Emergency Safe Sleeping Ground provides individual vetting to learn what's needed now and what specific help is needed now. Experts. Many people's situations require the need to relearn how to be responsible for themselves and surroundings in order to fit as normally as possible in a successful housing end. Without the monitoring, vetting, and constant contact, these people will fall back on old habits. A few who have not been homeless long will be the most successful. The old definition, they are all druggies, alcoholics, is a very false description of the majority of homeless. You and I are very lucky if we have a decent home and money to support it. Oh yes, and they do steal because they're broke, starving, or addicted when they do it. Those with addiction have no choice except to steal, as it is a starvation of another sort. Are you going to help them now, or are we going to be relying on later? Because yeah. I have met a wall here, folks. I've heard so many strange things up here. I know why people are really wonder what their government is doing for them.
Next is Derek Castle.
Good evening again. I'm very happy with what has been proposed by the city staff. As a matter of fact, I want to give a big thank you to community development, especially got Heather and Edgar and Jessica. They do just an awesome job. I don't know how they get all the stuff done that they get done. They must do some of it in their sleep. But they've done a great job. But I also want to thank our city manager, Mr. Lopez, because I'm sure he's played a very important part in this whole process. So thank you, Joe. Appreciate it a lot. This is going to really be helping. No, it's not going to be doing things as quickly as we'd liked. Tents would have been something that we could have done next week. But it is going to be doing something, and I'm really glad that Jessica's talking about something that's going to be fast tracking, because we do have, as she mentioned, 711 folk out there who are unsheltered, and we need to do something significant for them. In terms of one of the issues that Councilmember Wright raised about different groups going in, my hope is that we triage. We really, I believe, have to focus on those folk who are at most risk, those who are out on the street at risk of dying. And I would love to see some bridge housing units. For example, we were talking about the Downtown Streets team. I've been talking with the Community Development Department since last May about that idea. It's something I think that I'd love to see, but I don't know that we can triage in that way. We need to put our effort in our first efforts this coming financial year into those who are at risk on the streets. And then hopefully we can do something more for other groups who are at the moment do have shelter. Most of the Downtown Street team do have shelter. In terms of the 30 number for the places, to me, from everything that I've researched, that seems like a reasonable start. We do have to watch out, however, for the cost effectiveness per unit. If we have just 2 or 3 and we're putting in bathroom units and kitchens, obviously it's not going to be effective. So we need to give priority to those proposals that are going to be cost effective, because we need to get as many people off the streets and as quickly as we can. We do need to look at what we're going to do for folk now over winter. That is another issue to bridge housing, and I hope we do address that quickly. Thank you very much, and thank you, staff.
Next, I have John Lucas. He was here earlier. Maybe he had to leave. All right, and he spoke earlier also. All right, are there any other members of the public that would like to come forward? This is regarding item 18.
I'll pull up my seat. Well, Sebastian Jones, once again, I hope we don't screw this up tonight. The bridge houses, you know I speak. And for the gospel mission, bless them. They live on faith, and that's good. But the bridge houses, let me slow down. I got 3 minutes. I have an organization, a nonprofit, and this is something we need to look in the future, Jessica, is those prefab stackables. We can't go wide, we have to go up. In China, they have some nice stackable. They can put up 500 units. That's how they built their hospital within the COVID zone. And just like the jail, the jail moves in a unit when they need some more beds over there. You know, the bridge houses is like the one over here off of Martin Luther King for the veterans. It's something like it. But we need to think about, once again, is it's cheaper for, I believe, it's cheaper for the stackable. That's the future. This is what we gotta look at. We're talking about 30 years old and maybe go 3 stories. Matter of fact, they got a building that's about 60 stories. It's a stackable building. They just bring it in and build it up. But I hope tonight that my fellow councilman, Jeremiah, you was right on some of the stuff there. I appreciate that. Because the gospel mission, you know, I, for many years, volunteer. When we had the tent camp, I was there every day, day in, day out. That was a terrible mess. Maybe we can look into that property and bring a sewer line and some water and put them 30 units or 40 units over there. It's just on the side. So that's something to look at. It's just something to look at. But we also should, like I said, look at the future, the stackables. And if you have time, just go online and look at it. It comes out of China. But we would have some made here in America. And it's more convenient. And it's quicker. Instead of waiting 3 years to build some apartment, this can go up in 6 months to 8 months. We can have 100 units. Well, time's up. Once again, thank you for the time.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that would like to speak regarding item 18 in the public? All right, I will close public comments and open up for council comments. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Jessica, I want to thank you and your team. I know that you started looking at this last year because this was one of Jenny's projects or things that she wanted to see it. And I know that your staff's been working on it for over a year to move it to this level. One of the things I want to say too is we have to realize that we don't triage. We provide service or funding and housing for people, and then it's up to the operator on what type of clients they want in there. If they want to take someone off the street or whatever, it's going to be up to them. So I'm looking forward for those operators, nonprofits to step forward, for us to work with them so we can move forward on this. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I thank you, Jessica, for that presentation. With regards to the $3 million for 40 units, some have asked if that was a good investment, will that be a good investment or not? I will tell you what is not a good investment. What is not a good investment, and this is information I received from both police and fire. The fire department they began tracking homeless-related calls November 1st of last year. And from November 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 23, homeless-related medical calls actually is costing $95,000 a month. There were 1,839 calls, average cost per call $360, so that comes up to about $662,000. That's not a good investment. The police department, when I inquired with the chief how many calls the police department had towards homelessness, he said that there were 10,873 calls that were quality of life calls for service, which consist of many calls involving homeless subjects. That average cost per call is $460. And there were, if you take the 10,873 during fiscal year 2022 to 2023, it was over $5 million that we spent as a city towards those calls. That's a bad investment. We need to act, not react. I think with these calls that we see, we're reacting. We need to follow some plan follow a plan that was described tonight, where we can invest money and then we can see the fruits of the city's labor, and then we can call that a good investment. But just throwing money away, $5 million, I shouldn't say throwing away, but we're not seeing any production out of that. So I just wanted to bring that out. There's nothing perfect. I mean, all of us on this council, 100%, the mayor, the council, the city manager, we all want to better manage the homeless issue in Modesto. We're not going to solve it, but we can better manage it. How we do that is when we have discussions and debates and come to a conclusion that all council and mayor agree to. And this is the vehicle that is going to help us better manage the homeless population. And this is what Measure H was all about: public safety, law enforcement, and homelessness. Public safety for the homeless and public safety for the residents of our communities, the people who go in the parks and use our downtown businesses. So this is not going to be perfect, but it's a start, and we can learn from it. Nothing is going to be set in concrete. Things are going to be, we need to adjust here, we need to adjust over there, but we are taking steps, bold steps, because I think we've taken homeless off the back burner on this council and put it on the front burner. And this is what, I may not get everything I want, but that's life. Okay? I can share my ideas, and thumbs up or thumbs down. But once that is not approved, you moved on. You need to move forward and move on and try to find other avenues. I think this is the avenue to go. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Vice Mayor Ricky.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo some of Councilmember Bavaro's feelings here. Our workshop was it was a tough workshop, and we went through a lot in that workshop, but what really makes me feel a lot of confidence in this council is how the mayor and the city manager and the rest of the team kind of came back at us with another solution and another place to start on this issue. Is this bridge housing going to completely solve our homeless problem? No. Is it going to make an impact? Yeah. Do we have more work to do? Absolutely. But I'm very pleased with this project and this idea and the courage it takes to deploy budget to address the problem. So I'm really pleased with this direction, and I'm looking forward to working with the government and with my fellow council members to continue to fight the problem.
Right. Councilmember Escudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. The idea of bridge housing did not start at the workshop. As Councilmember Wright indicated, it is an area that the council and actually staff have been working on, more staff, definitely for quite some time, and for that I applaud them. And I know that they will continue to work diligently and expediently in the direction of getting this implemented and open and available. This will provide humane, dignified, private, and safe shelter for our homeless population. So that is wonderful. we will continue to explore all options. And I know that this was not done in a vacuum. It's with the public's input, with staff's diligent work, with leadership from the city manager and the council's passion and heartfelt desire to do good by the people of Modesto. It is only through that collaboration that the train stays on track and gets things done. So I'm very happy to be part of that. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Very brief. I love this council and everybody on it.
Right, that was very brief. Barely had time didn't even get time to get it. Wasn't expecting that. All right, so I would like to thank our staff. I greatly appreciate their work on these efforts. At the workshop, we presented, or they presented bridge housing, and it seems that there was support for this. I am a proponent of first level off-the-street solutions with sanitation, access to services, and coordinated structured environment as a first step out of homelessness. And I support this 100%. Any other comments from council members? Seeing none, there's 3 resolutions that can be all stated together. Oh, I did want to make one more comment. I'm really grateful for the Modesto Gospel Mission for their efforts for many, many years to help people in our community, and for their clear willingness to have a place for everyone. That's greatly appreciated. So we have a resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to solicit proposals for bridge housing sites and allocating $3 million for potential projects. A resolution amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 multi-year non-capital multi-year budget to create a new project and establish applicable revenue, expense, and transfer budgets for the bridge housing projects to be funded with Measure H funds in the amount of $3 million, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to take the necessary steps to implement the provisions of this resolution. A resolution approving an agreement for expanded client services with Modesto Gospel Mission for a total amount not to exceed $100,000 for 1 year, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to negotiate and execute the agreement. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Bavaro, seconded by Vice Mayor Ricky. Will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Alvarez.
I'm sorry, I thought it was Vice Mayor Ricky, but a second by Councilmember Alvarez.
You're forgiven.
Will the clerk,
See, I told you I love this council.
thank you. I need forgiveness. I do need forgiveness. Will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I'm calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.